Mr. Chairman, I believe that all 4 members are present and are online if you want to have them roll call and then begin the meeting.
Yeah, let's give a roll call out. Wally,
Here.
Jim? Yeah, you muted, Jim. I see you though. Brad?
There you go.
Okay, thank you. So all 4 members are here. So we will be open the August 25th Planning Board meeting. We'll come to order at, all right, 7:04. I have a motion.
So motion. Wow.
Second it.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Wally,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
me, aye, Bob. Okay. Town planner will, with an update on the remote meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This open meeting of the Groveland Planning Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. For this meeting, the Groveland Planning Board is convening by video conference via Zoom as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference.
Hey, thank you, Town planner. All right. Okay, decisions and possible voting. First item on the agenda is 180 rear Center Street, bond and escrow release request.
180 Center Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may say, this is the Blue Stable Horse Farm that is over
Oh, yes.
on Second Street. Per the approved memorandum of decision, the applicant was required to submit an as-built plan and certification from a registered engineer stating that the site has been constructed in accordance to the approved plan. Both of these items have been submitted and were sent in your packet. The board will take a formal vote to release the bond being held for the project, which is $200,000, and also release the remaining escrow funds of $19 and to close the
Okay.
Yep.
So motion to, for the release. I've been down there. It's a very nice property and it looks like it was built to plan.
I
You did a
will,
nice job, yeah.
yeah, I will second it. All in favor?
Aye. Brad?
Wally? Yeah.
Aye.
Jim?
Yeah. Aye.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, chapter 1. Street, Form A application.
Chairman, there was one other item on the agenda, which is 245 Center Street, the vote to endorse the improved plan.
Yes, I got that, yeah.
So if we may take up that item, the applicant has shown the proof of the, well, excuse me, per the approved memorandum of decision, the applicant has shown proof of the $2 million limited liability insurance and has provided the drafted Form F and drafted Form H. The Mylars have been updated to reflect the updated waivers as required in the memorandum of decision. So I don't believe there's any reason to withhold endorsement. I would just like to reiterate that the applicant may not proceed with any site work until the other decisions, other conditions of the decision are met. But I do not believe that the board needs to withhold any endorsement as they have met the requirements of the approved plan.
Okay, so noted. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'll take the second on this one.
Okay,
Sell the existing home and 245.
yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So, Wally?
Aye.
Yeah. Brad
Aye.
and Jim.
Aye.
Aye. And myself, aye. So all set on that. Okay, Atwood Estates, stormwater runoff, violation of stormwater management and land disturbance bylaw.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I messed up on the agenda. It should be the Form A application for Salem Street first prior to that item.
Oh, okay, no problem.
Um,
So, Form A applicant for Salem Street.
I do not know, I do not see the engineer. Oh, is it Eric?
Yeah, I'm
Eric?
Eric Walker with Millennium Engineering. Yes.
Sorry, so the applicant has submitted a Form A application with 2 lots over on 895 Salem Street. The intent of the Form A is to legally separate Lot A from Lot B. Lot B has a cell tower on it. It is a not buildable lot. It does not have adequate frontage. The Lot A does have adequate frontage and area and currently has an existing house on the property. So the intent of the Form A is to legally separate the cell tower from the house that has the the lot that has the house on it. And the engineer and surveyor is on the line in order to answer any specific questions the board may have.
Okay.
I
Is
think I
this
have
the
to.
old Shaka property?
Yes.
Okay.
I've got to recuse myself from this because I'm a direct abutter.
So noted.
Thank
Okay,
you, Fred.
Yep.
Okay. I was involved in this when it started from the beginning, so I'm pretty familiar with it. And I understand what the Form A is for. The question is, who actually owns the cell tower, since that was, I believe that was leased land, wasn't it?
The cell tower is actually owned by the Shaka family, or in a trust of some sort, I believe, if I'm
All
not.
right. So they're still going to be the owners?
That is correct. They're looking to sell the house lot and
The house, sell the house, okay.
of the cell tower.
All right, and what's the, let's say 70 feet, okay, that's plenty of frontage, plenty of land onto that. And the access road, are the covenants that went with the original cell tower going to be staying in deed with the tower lot?
I believe there was an easement, a utility easement that
Yeah,
was
utility
as part
easement,
of
yeah.
that. So it's not as large as what they're leaving, but they are leaving themselves a little bit more leverage if the cell tower were to want to expand on that.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, because that's set pretty far back onto that. And as long as it remains in with the Shaka family, I'm sure that's fine. So I'll pull back for questions because I'm very familiar with it. I don't have an issue with it.
nope, I don't either. I know the site very well too, so I make a motion that we approve the Form A lot.
Second,
Salem, second.
second, yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Yep. Wally, Jim, yep.
Aye. Yep.
Okay, and aye. So all set there.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
You're welcome.
Okay, now on to Atwood Estates. The stormwater runoff. Violation of the stormwater management and land disturbance bylaw.
Mr. Chair, if I may introduce the issue. As I had described in my memo, on Wednesday, July 23rd, the town experienced a microburst of rain, which caused water and siltation runoff from Atwood Estates, enough so that the abutting property owner was flooded and sand washed down Center Street into the wetlands. The highway department was out on the site and they removed the sand, and the property owner submitted a letter detailing the damages that were occurred during that particular storm. When we went out to the site, it was found that the installation of the catch basin and the infiltration chamber were not yet activated. The catch basins sit above grade. The road has not been completed. The infiltration chamber has not been activated, and therefore the drainage is just not functioning as of date because the development is not finished. Then at the latest development is that there was another storm this past weekend, which resulted in additional stormwater runoff from the site. The photos that were sent to you showed that the detention pond gave out and there was raw water coming down from the detention pond down the road into the abutting property. We have notified the developer. He is on the call this evening. to discuss this further with the board. Please also note that when we went out to the site to take a closer look at this issue, we did find that the design did not accommodate for 50 feet of the roadway. And therefore, we had worked with the developer to come up with an alternative design to accommodate for that, which resulted in a catch basin at the end of the roadway, which would then tie into the existing infiltration chamber on the side of the road with an additional swale. TEC, Peter Ellison, was out at the site. He is able to speak more to that in terms of a technical standpoint, but we believe that that will accommodate for that additional roadway runoff. But the most pressing issue before you this evening is the continued violation to the stormwater management bylaw that all stormwater must be maintained on site and cannot be discharged from the site.
Okay. And you said Peter's on from TEC?
That is-
Okay.
Peter,
Pete,
can you give me some comments on that, please?
Yeah, sure. I think what's going on out there is, and Rebecca already stated this, but the drainage system is not complete. It's still a site that is under construction. So the catch basins that are out there are all, the grates are all above the pavement, so they're not collecting any water. The water's just running off. And the final improvements to the system are not done. So when we met on site with Al Couillard, the developer, we came up with a solution, I think, to resolve the issue that's happening now. And it will be further resolved once all the pavement and the grates are set to grade. So that would entail extending a swale to tie into the underground infiltration system and adding a catch basin within the right-of-way to help capture the runoff. And I'll leave it up to Al to speak to the schedule on how soon that can be completed.
all right.
Al?
And then how much on the violation, Pete? I mean, this is a big one. Flooding out, which is also a violation of the zoning bylaws too, including stormwater management as well, to get this thing going. So it should be post haste to get this squared away. And why wasn't it squared away before would be my question. Do we still have lots out there that are open?
We actually, all of the lots are occupied and sold.
What was the last closing date?
So I
Anybody
know the first one was May of 2019. I do not know the last one. I believe it was just earlier this year, or maybe
Right.
at the end of last year.
6 weeks ago.
6 weeks ago? Okay. So this should be squared away fairly quickly. I'm not sure why it wasn't before, but what's,
Do you want me to
Pete,
tell you?
you want to have Al do it? Oh, there it is. Hey, Al.
Go ahead, Al. Yeah, go ahead, Al.
The detention area that we're talking about is an underground detention area at the bottom of the pond, and it's at the bottom of Atwood Lane, and it's just doesn't make good construction sense to have any silt going into that. You're not going to see it. It's not like an above ground detention area where, if it gets over silted, you can go in there by hand or with a backhoe, clean it out, get to the bottom and reseed it. It's a chambered system underground. So that's the last thing that we want activated on the site. As Rebecca said, the microburst caused some problems. No one designs to that. We've had a few meetings. It's become evident what we need to do. I've agreed to do it. We mobilized actually there today, and should be done in less than 2 weeks.
All right. So do you have an actual schedule? So obviously we have a top coat that's got to go on. That's to activate the catch basins. And then, Al, do you have the filter system that's typical in the catch basins at this stage? The fabric, did it catch any potential silt?
We're preparing to top coat the road, so the catch basins are raised.
Right. But
There's nothing going in.
stuff can still fall in them though.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, but there's very,
Yeah,
nothing,
you guys
they're not
usually
active.
put
They're not
fabric on.
they're not working.
Yeah,
They'll
right.
be work-
But
they'll
there's
be
usually
working in a week
fabric.
when we pave the road.
Yeah, you put the fabric in? Okay, so that's a plus. Okay, and what about the sump drains on the sides? How's that?
I don't know what you're talking about, a sump drain.
Sump
On
in
the-
you mean the catch basin sumps?
Yeah.
Are they sumps in the catch basins, Al?
They're standard catch basins. Yeah, I mean, every catch basin has a little bit of sump in it, but there's no mechanical sump pumps anyway.
Okay. And the curbing on this, is this, I can't remember, it's been a while.
Small amount of curbing. It's been engineered, staked out on the road. We mobilized there today. We're going to install that extra catch basin that's not actually on my project on Atwood Lane. It's on Center Street because
Right.
that's where Peter and myself and Phil Christensen and everybody agreed it would be most effective. We're going to install the catch basin. We're going to install the curbing. We're going to harden the sides, regrade some stuff, and top coat it. And that all should happen within a 1 to 2 week period from today.
Al,
So
is
is
that,
there any abutters that are affected by this water or any other companies nearby that are affected by this water?
The affected abutter is across the street. And on that microburst, which was, you all know, crazy that day, I think some water went down my hill and up the other side and got into his property. But normally it's a 2-foot grade from the bottom of Atwood to the top of the driveway across the street. The top of the driveway across the street is 2 feet higher. It'd have to be like another microburst or something crazy like that.
So there's no damage to his property, anything that you have to repair or replace?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I saw the
Okay.
picture. Some of it, Jim. He's had some flooding. Yeah, we got some documentation from him. So
yeah,
so let's get this. When will the catch basins be active? That's the big thing.
Within 2 weeks, closer to a
Okay.
week, but I just don't want to say anything that's not right. Within 2 weeks, closer to a week.
Bob,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm here. So,
you on board with that?
yeah, I mean, if he's mobilized now and he's gonna stay right on it and get it done, that's all we can ask for him right now.
well,
I would like to make a recommendation that the board consider doing monitoring for every rain event until the actual completion of the roadway so that we can make sure that somebody's out at the site after every event to ensure that there's no additional runoff into the roadway, the abutting property, or the nearby wetlands.
I tend to agree. I mean, we've got to, this thing's got to be built for a 100-year storm, let alone a couple of micro.
yeah, and it is rather concerning that this got that far out of hand, but more so that it hasn't been done yet. I'm not sure. I mean, we had a pretty good summer for paving so far. I'm not sure what would have caused the delay on this. What was that, Al?
It's construction scheduling. I don't know if you noticed or not, we're on Zoom because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Things got slowed up pretty well for everything and everybody, so.
Yeah. All right. Can you put a timetable together in writing to the board? And within 2 weeks sounds nice, but I would like to get that a little more hardened up. And then, and we got some violations here with the stormwater management. I'm not sure how the board wants to address that at the moment. And is this going to be bituminous curbing? Is that what I'm seeing here?
No.
It's granite?
Granted,
Okay. And I'm looking at a different edge road here on one of the photographs. Must be coming down here still. Okay. So the granite, all right, and the granite's not in yet? Does that typically go down before the binder?
No.
No.
It's cemented in on the edges with the top coat.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. That's good. That's great.
so Al, when is the curbing being delivered? I haven't seen it there.
Yeah, it's not there right now. Again, culvert, it's been ordered. It should be coming within days.
When
Okay.
was it ordered, Al?
It was ordered, I think, 2 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago.
Well, I think Rebecca and I went down to the Billis site and we met with Al and, he assured us that he was going to get on top of this. Right, Al?
Absolutely.
Well, we got some,
So that was,
yeah, I just wanted a little more short. I like the monitoring part. TEC can do that. Al, you're going to have to get a cleanup crew, I guess, standing by in the rainstorms until this stuff goes active. And then is right. This is supposed to be built for a 100-year storm. And Pete, do you have any concerns about once this thing does go active? What's a final inspection on this? How do you do that with the baffles underground?
Are you referring specifically to the underground chamber system?
Yeah.
The only way I've ever seen it done is you can either use a camera like they do, to inspect sewer pipes,
Yeah.
to take a look at the sediment, or you can send a laborer down, with a ladder and take a look.
What do you recommend on this, since it's been installed a while, right?
It's been installed but not connected to anything, so there theoretically hasn't been any water flowing to it.
silt, no.
Probably if Al could send, have one of his guys go in and just take photos to show that it's not all silted up, that would be adequate.
Okay. Yeah, we had to do that on Main Street. I think we sent the camera down on one of the drainage systems years ago, down on 113.
Yeah.
On something, because there was an issue. So, okay, I'm amenable to that. You're the Pete, whatever you suggest on that, but I think it's worth checking out. At least check that box, just so nobody can come back at Al either and say, hey, you forgot to check it out if it doesn't work,
Yeah.
So I think that's an easy fix. I'm worried that if further delays, let's say curbing holds you up, something else. Do we have a backup plan?
I can't build curbing,
No, I get that. Yeah. No, I
ordered
get that.
it, and when they're telling us it's going to come, and when it comes, we'll put it in.
I think
And
the
what's your,
worst case scenario is, I think you can activate your catch basins, and then shim them later. If push comes to shove, and get that activated and get the infiltrator activated.
As somebody said, it's going to be, an extended delay maybe, but that doesn't really help with flooding going down on the street. Those catch basins are at the top of the road. We need to activate the chambered system at the bottom and install the catch basin to resolve the problem.
And you have anything up there now? Hay bales? Did you reinforce them, or in the meantime?
It's not like that. It's a paved area that's exposed. And so it
Yeah,
has,
I'm looking at a picture right here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming down. All right.
Problem is
Well-
that pond. The pond fills up, Wally, and then it just floods out.
Yeah. So there's not much we can do with that. The catch basin that you're going to add, is that going to be close to the pond, or is that going to be like in the middle of going down? The one on Center Street.
It's across the driveway from the pond, but it's actually on the side of Center Street.
All right. Should there be, and only because I can only see half of this, should there be one on each side of Center Street, or is it just that one that will catch everything? How's the pitch going to be?
There's a pretty clear low point on Center Street that's to the right side of of Atwood Lane that will do an adequate job.
Okay, that's good. And what I was referring to was on the roadway edge with the 2-foot gravel shoulder that's off the pavement. That's what I was talking about. Is any of that active for drainage?
Not sure exactly where you mean, but in general, I think most of the site, the drainage is not active.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right. That answers my questions. So how do you want to proceed, Bob? You want to do a flow to motion or what?
Yeah, I'll float a motion to have Al just put it in writing to the board and have him continue with it and try to keep on the 2-week schedule that he promised us.
All right, then we got to have inspections after each rainstorm. And then we've got some violations here with the stormwater management. How fast have you been tending to this once this occurs? And I understand why it's happening, but I mean, how fast were you out there to clean this mess up?
I've been out there doing what I'm supposed to do since I started the project, so.
Well, obviously this, whatever delayed this, besides COVID, but I'd like in that motion that if this isn't done within that time frame, you know, within reason, I understand a day or so here or there, that the stormwater management fines be applied after every rainstorm, and every time there's going to be a cleanup, because this needs to be done right away. And if you get it done within 2 weeks, that's fine, but you know, thereabouts. But if this continues on and goes into spring, the fines have to go in. It's just because it is a big violation. It's understandable a little bit, but I'm still not sure why it took that long.
I really don't think it's going to go on to the spring. He's going to have it done within the next 2 to 3 weeks, I'm sure.
Well, that's incentive then. But I think it should go in the motion that just to cover the board and everybody else too, because we do have a violation here, and we can't just, I mean, it's understandable, I get it, but it's still there. And that's a lot of water. And you know, that's not even a 25-year storm I don't think we got. So onto that. So I would like that added into the motion that the stormwater management fines would apply after the rainstorms, after this timeline.
I'm just
I'll
curious.
tell you what, Wally, how about we do this? When's our
Yeah.
next meeting? When's our next meeting? In 2 weeks?
I don't know. Rebecca, when do we have a meeting?
So technically, we would go back to our normal schedule, which would be the first and third Tuesday of the month, which would take us actually to next week. So if the board is amenable, I would advise them to not meet the first week of September, but to push off to their third week, which would be September 15th, unless the board would like to meet next week.
No, that's all right. So Wally, why don't we do this? And Bob, if we'll convene, you know, we can close this out. And if he's not done by that, then Wally, we can hold Al accountable for fines in the future. So that gives you, you know, close to 3 weeks, Al.
Yeah, that's fine.
I think it would
Okay.
also telltale based upon the fact that there's monitoring at the site for every rain
Yeah.
event anyway, so that any report would be given to the board once it's provided to myself. And so we'd be able to track that if there was a violation a lot sooner, now that there'll be somebody out on site making sure that it's completed.
Yeah, that's amenable to me. It's kind of like one or the other, because if you put it into the motion that if we go past the timeline, the fines in place, or we put the fines in place on September 15, it's really one and the same.
But I think we're giving him a deadline of September 15th, which is close to 3 weeks.
I just have a question. The standard decision language for monitoring is after a rainstorm of a half an inch or greater. Is that what the board wants here? Or are you asking for TEC to do more frequent or smaller rain amounts?
I would say a half an inch or more to do the monitoring, yes.
What triggers the event? That's what you got to figure out. I mean, will a quarter
Tell
inch
you
do
to
it, or will
rain.
it happen?
Oh, we had,
4 inches.
yeah, the first one, we almost had 5 inches of rain, so,
Yeah, first one was 4 or 5 inches.
right.
The second one was a what? 4 5/10 or 3 9/10.
Right. So,
So I think a half inch is definitely doable.
yep.
Yeah. Pete, you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that. That's the standard language anyways.
Okay, that works. I'm game.
Okay. So,
All right, so Al's going to produce that. You got the schedule up, and then you want to delay in the motion the stormwater management fines, or do you want to throw them in to be active after September 15th?
to be active after December 15th. September 15th.
That's fine.
Yep, September.
Okay. I'm good with that. So motion.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Wally,
Aye.
Brad,
Aye.
Jim?
Yeah, aye.
Yeah, and Bob, yes, too, aye. Okay, all right, Al?
Yep.
I know.
Hey, keep us posted.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next one is Billis Way. Correspondence from Kathy Castanelis, bond reduction request.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to lead off that we received correspondence from Ms. Castellalis in regards to the screening along Billis Way. She had approached the board during the permitting process, but after being out at the site, she was a little hesitant, did not necessarily think that there was enough screening based upon now that the houses are actually going up. I had shared with her the approved plan by the board and also showed that the privacy fence along the cul-de-sac had not yet been installed and the shrubbery had not yet been installed as well. However, even with those measures, she was concerned about the screening, and she is here on the call tonight to speak to her letter and speak to her concerns.
Okay, welcome.
Okay, go ahead, Kelly.
Hi, I first want to make it clear I'm here as a resident, not as a member of my Board of Selectmen. I'll go through my concerns. First of all, I think we only have one chance to get this done correctly. It is our only town historic cemetery. It is protected by laws that protect historic burial grounds. You should look into those and make sure that we're doing everything we can. And I think we're not. It's supposed to be a no-touch area, as I understand it. It is not clearly marked. I went there today. You can't really tell where they're supposed to be touching and cutting and where they're not. There's a few little ribbons on trees, but that's not a clear designation. There should be a string or a rope right across the no-touch zone, showing clearly, don't touch this area. My second concern after looking at it today is erosion. They are cutting into the hill, and it almost looks like they cut into some areas that might have been drainage, something from the cemetery. It's hard to tell. But what do we know about whether or not, because of the cutting into the hill, that eventually it will disturb the graves that are close to the border, and eventually we'll have a problem in our cemetery. I also noted that a stone pillar is knocked down. I'm assuming it's from the construction. I can't imagine how they did that. I noticed that with the home at the beginning of the development looks to be maybe occupied, but at least getting ready to be, and there's no clear marking of the no-touch zone. I wondered if there will be fines for violating the no-touch zone. I saw that the road is not completely done, and I wondered how many houses along that road are going to back up onto the cemetery, because I noticed one home that is, the backyard is going to practically be in the cemetery. And I think we're opening ourselves up for a world of problems on the town side of things, with people coming into the cemetery from that development, fooling around, destroying historic monuments, all kinds of things. So my concern is real, it exists, and I think you need to do more than what's being done now. I don't know how legally you can do it, but there is definitely a website. There's a lot of laws that protect historic burial grounds. Our cemetery includes a historic burial ground. Now we've opened it up. Anybody from that street can come right on in, damage things, we'll never know. So in addition to the no-touch zone, there should be clear marking of where that is, so that we know when this developer is violating it. Because honestly, I don't think this developer will care one way or the other unless we care. I was there today and I could hear the workers swearing, yelling to each other. So think about someone going to see someone that just got buried. There's an open grave site there right now. They go there to have a few moments there, and they're listening to guys yelling with profanity at each other, and a bunch of equipment, no screening in some areas. It's out of control there. They're definitely clear cutting. There's no concern at all for what happens to the cemetery. They're clearly saying, we're gonna build our thing and the town can figure this out. So I want the planning board to do whatever's within your powers right now to make sure this cemetery is protected.
What was there prior? Was there ever a fence bordering the cemetery in the first place where people can't trespass?
No, but there was a lot of woods and like brush, so it would be very difficult to cut. It wasn't that easy to cut through. Besides, there was also a complete drop down ledge. You really should go out and look at it because they're cutting right into that drop down ledge. And that's where I get concerned. Will the cemetery over time start to fall because you're cutting into that hill to put this road in?
Could not the construction company put a barrier, some kind of fencing area or something to create a barrier, so therefore now residents of that new development cannot just cross over to that area?
Right, I know the cemetery commissioners want to get around to a fence as far as preservation, but there's no delineation that shows the no-touch zone on the property that will be owned by the homeowner. I don't see anything that clearly marks it and says, you can't put stuff here, you can't take down trees here. And the clear cutting that's gone on has opened up the whole cemetery to vandalism and people. In fact, when I was in there, there was a kid sitting there with his skateboard, and I stopped and said, you know, you can't skateboard in here.
But there's a difference between private property and town property.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying. So if they're developing, they're not crossing over town property. They're staying within their boundaries, are they not?
I don't know if they're staying within the no-touch zone, and that's what I'm asking you. Why isn't that clearly marked?
It is. There's stakes. Those stakes that you talked about, they're not on trees. I put stakes everywhere along the 20-foot no-cut zone, all along that project, the entire perimeter of the project where there's a 20-foot no-cut zone. It was clearly marked when we cut trees, which we cut and we're done. And also the 20-foot no-cut zone it's on two houses in that project, and both of them, it's in their deed. So when they buy the house and they look at their deed and the lawyer tells them, and they look at their plan, there's a 20-foot no-cut zone on both of their plans, on both of their deeds in perpetuity. The house you're talking about at the beginning of the street does not have a 20-foot no-cut zone. That's why it's not marked.
Okay, from the no-cut zones, from experience,
It's not no-cut.
it's got to be marked clearer than in the deed, because we have a subdivision in town where we had the same thing, and people moved in, and even though it was in their deed, they were issued chainsaws and swimming pools and cut 220 feet into a no-cut zone. So what we did to finish that, to make sure that it wasn't done again in the future, was any no-cut zones have these granite monuments that go up with plaques on them that basically quote the Black Knight, that say, "No one shall pass with thy chainsaw," and those have to go up. Now, Kathy's got a real good point here on the no-touch zone with the cemetery. Stakes are good, Al, but you've got to really close that off. And whether that's a temporary fence or a couple of rope lines going across, something, because you can get in between the stakes, and we all know stakes get pulled out, whether it's kids having fun or a machine backs over them. So you got to do a little better with that, marking that out, because that's always a problem, not just your subdivision, Al, it's every single one of them. And I remember the hearings on this about the fencing going up and the privacy and the landscaping to protect that cemetery. And I agree with her. But you can't put a fence up right now unless it's going to be clear of all the construction. But there are other things that can be done to protect it, including signage, which I'm not sure if that's up at all, that can easily go up, of "No one shall pass" and hours and no trespassing, and marking the identifiers of the no touch zones with colors, bright colors. So that area is protected.
There's only two properties in the subdivision that abut the cemetery with a 20-foot no-cut zone. I can't imagine anybody living in those houses would want to cut down those 20 feet of trees in between them and headstone.
Walk down Stonebridge, look on the right-hand side. All 10 residents did it.
I don't think there's a big call for that.
It's got to be marked. Pete, have you been out there to monitor this, just to see where those areas are?
I have been out there. TEC is not monitoring this site.
Okay.
I've been out there for the bond release numbers.
Yeah.
And also met Al out there to look at a separate issue, but
Okay.
not specific for this.
Can I make a recommendation to the board for a motion to get those areas delineated with bright markings, signage, and protect it? And now the permanent markers are going to have to go in, but that's later. Once you do the landscaping, you put those markers in for those two houses. And you can go look at Stonebridge, you'll see them. We have them in other areas. Conservation actually has done a nice job with those as well. But Kathy's right. No one's going to know. And the people that are in and out of there working, visiting, or even future buyers don't know. They're not part of the process that we've all been through in this town for these. And it's got to get marked up. So a motion to fly with the board to get this area brightly marked and keep it safe during the construction process to be replaced later with permanent markings. I'm aware of the fencing. That's many options with that, I guess, and also the landscaping later with trees and foliage. So what would work, Pete, that you think would protect that area?
Can I ask a question first? I thought when I went to the first hearings, and I know this property changed hands, but I thought that this no-touch zone was to go along the entire length of the border of the cemetery, not one.
Right.
So
You're
I
right.
don't know if this developer is claiming it doesn't apply to the first house, it only applies to this house and that house. That's not, and I know from talking to the cemetery commissioners, that's not their understanding either.
Yeah, it's not. It's the full
Well,
length,
we gotta-
but where those houses are with that full length, and I don't have the plan in front of me, Kath, to
Yeah.
figure that out. But you're absolutely correct. That was a full-blown all the way down. We've talked about an iron fence and some other stuff too, but I don't know what they're going to decide on.
The no
But-
cut zone is not on the endorsed plan. The no cut zone is only on two of the lots on that side of the cemetery. There's a 20-foot and then there's a 15-foot when you look at the plan that the planning board signed and is recorded at the registry of deeds. So
Yeah.
conversations in terms of fencing, but in terms of no cut zones that are established on the deed, there are only two lots that have those.
Right. So, and that's what we had with the problem that we actually have with not only Stonebridge, but another subdivision where they weren't marked. And people went in and they didn't know really, even though it was in their deed, they couldn't tell where it is. And even some of the equipment operators didn't really know where that was. So we fixed that by no cut zones during the construction process have to be clearly marked and roped off, fenced off. That bright orange fencing works pretty good. It's cheap. So everybody knows you can't go past that point.
And I just heard you speak with this developer about the mess he's making on Central Street. So I hope you're not going to release any bond money here, because this
Well, that
road
was
is not done.
going to be my second recommendation, that we get this squared away first, and then we go back in, and we're going to be here 2 weeks anyway, and then float the motion on.
I gotta defend myself here. I disagree. I haven't made a mess on Atwood Estates. I built Atwood Estates exactly to the plan that was approved by the planning board. The drainage problems have nothing to do with me. I'm gonna go fix them. I'm gonna go fix the problems of the approved plan. Adding catch basins, doing a significant amount of work that's not on that plan to ensure that that's gonna be correct. That plan had nothing to do with me. I didn't approve it. Somebody else did. I'm gonna fix it. So don't criticize that builder and say that I don't care, like you said earlier. I'm on that job every day. Nobody has gone near that 20-foot zone. The cemetery calls me anytime there's a service, and everybody on that site shuts down for 2 hours every time there's a service at that cemetery. My excavator has a son and a father and a mother in that cemetery. You're not just the only one with a loved one in that cemetery. We're all taking care to be as careful and respectful as we can to people in that cemetery, just so you know.
Well, just so
Okay, so
wait a minute. This man pointed his finger in my face and gave me the lecture that he thinks I need, and I disagree with you. How disrespectful of you, working in our town.
All right, we're not gonna get in an argument here, okay?
Well, he's disrespectful. He should be held by the chairman
You
of
were
the board.
disrespectful first.
Disrespectful.
okay, so solutions. Can we get that, Pete? You think that bright orange fencing to delineate right now so everybody knows where that no cut zone is? That
Yeah,
Chief?
that would be a pretty clear identifier.
Yeah, yeah. And then Kathy's right about it. The full length is another, it's a buffer issue. I know what she's talking about. I don't know what that site looks like at the moment. That if you ran a fence, you ran the same plastic bright buffer down, I don't think that would, I mean, it's definitely going to show where it is, but is that in jeopardy at the moment? Like this no cut zone is, the no touch zone.
There's nothing in jeopardy. If you want me to put up an orange fence on the no cut zone, I'll put up an orange fence.
Yeah, I think that's a quick solution. It's not just your subdivision now. This has happened numerous times. It actually helps everybody out so everybody knows where's the line.
What happens though? I don't understand what you're saying. What happens? I've cut the trees I'm already gonna cut on those two
Yeah.
lots. They're scheduled to be sold. They're sold to homeowners. It's in the deed. The lots aren't closed yet.
So was Stonebridge.
Hear me out. If there's some required markings done to prevent them from cutting down those trees, when the lots are done, when the houses are built, when the land is graded and landscaped, if it makes sense to put some signs up there, I'm not opposed to that. Right
Yeah,
now,
that's when it
I'm
happens.
there.
Right.
Right now, I'm there every day. I'm on that job every day. My site contractor's on that job every day. He knows not to cut the trees. Nobody's gonna cut a tree. Nobody violates that. There's actually a giant loom pile in the way. It's not, that 20 foot on those two lots is not accessible to anybody right now. So,
Right. So
if you
the
want me to-
orange fence will clear that out, but I don't think there's anything else at the moment, right, Al?
No,
That's those two lots, right?
Well,
That's
no,
it, just to watch.
Chairman, can I just say, I keep telling you the same things. I thought the no-touch zone, regardless of whether there's a house there or not, the idea is there are historic trees there that border this cemetery. I thought they were being preserved. And that's my question. Are we preserving the 20,
Yeah.
whether there's a house there or not? Not
Yeah.
even,
the answer to your question is yes.
okay, so we're having a no-touch zone that's going to be clearly marked 20 feet down the whole line of the cemetery, whether or not there's a house there or not.
We're gonna have a fence.
The purpose of the no-cut zone, if you have your property line and there's a 20-foot barrier, well, that's what they're going to comply and to do, a 20-foot from the property line. Correct, sir?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's just on those two lots. That's the only thing I just want to make sure. The endorsed plan, I get that that's not what we want, but I just want to make sure that you all know that the plan that you recorded at the
We
registry only
we approved just two lots.
so there's not the
Right.
whole length of the cemetery because there's the first lot, then there's another lot in the back that doesn't have a no cut zone. So it's only those two lots that go right on the side. So there's the first one that doesn't, then there's 1 and 2, and then the last one does not. So it's not the whole length of the cemetery lot line. That's all I just want to make sure that we're confirming.
The cemetery lot line, how close besides those two lots, how close does that come to any construction anyway? Doesn't that, I'm trying to remember the plan. It was a while ago.
Not very close.
Like 50
More than
feet, 100 feet.
More than 20 feet everywhere. I'm not sure exactly either.
All right.
It was
So at
Rebecca,
the moment,
Rebecca and I went down there, and there was only one. Rebecca, remember there was only one spot that we talked to Al about replanting some arborvitaes or some trees to shade, but to barrier, and he was on board with that. Am I right,
yeah, so
Rebecca?
let's-
Yes, and those were in the plan as well, in front of the privacy fence around the cul-de-sac. I'm pulling up the plan right.
Right, it was on the left-hand side, and with those two lots, it was like one area when it started to turn around to that back lot where it looked a little close.
That calls
But
for
he has maintained the 20-foot buffer.
150 feet long.
I'm sorry, I'll say that again, 150 feet long for what?
It calls for a 6-foot privacy fence. It's 150 feet long.
Yeah, that sounds, okay. All right, and that's going in afterwards.
It's going in before the snow flies.
Yeah, all right. Okay. So the orange fence will keep them out, and then the 150-foot fence.
Nobody going in there. There's nobody keeping anybody out. There's a
No.
big.
I mean just these two lots. I'm just gonna move, trying to move forward so we can protect these two and everything else. And yeah, the permanent markings, once you're done with the landscape and everything like that, those will go in. And you can go take a look at them. We have them installed in other places. They're real easy to put in. And they're
We
marked.
did that already. That's fine.
Yeah, that's fine with that. All right. Anything else on this particular item at the moment as it stands?
Well, if I could, I would just like to ask if some of your planning board members would please just go walk that border, because there's nothing like seeing. Then you'll
I'm
understand.
happy to meet you and any planning board member. We can set up an appointment. We can all go out together, review the whole site. It's fine. I'm open to that.
I was gonna say, I've run into other people who were similarly visiting loved ones, and they were just really dismayed. And I guess, I know the plan is set, but you've also said on the other plan, you could change things. So, like I said in the beginning, you have one chance on this to get it done right. I have no problem with people moving into our town. I was one of those people years ago. What I have a problem with is anything that destroys or completely dismantles what is essentially the only historic cemetery in our town.
Noted. Yeah, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else at the moment besides on that. And Kathy's right about this. And has anyone done a survey? And I don't mean an engineering survey. Has anybody actually gone out there and marked all the historic trees and such? So it's clear where they are, or are they just on the plan? Anybody?
Nope. I don't think anybody's been out there to mark anything.
I went out there, but we didn't go, we didn't go with a plan in our hand and start marking stuff.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well,
I
we
mean-
don't do that, but
No,
it should have been marked at some point before. And I think that would be obviously we wouldn't have enough information to do that, but I thought that might have been done before with the Cemetery Commission.
I staked the subdivision everywhere the plan showed to have a buffer zone of trees that weren't to be touched. I had it staked out so that I knew exactly where we were when we were clearing and cutting trees.
yep.
And Pete, has anybody looked at that?
Pete's not monitoring the project, so.
Who's monitoring that project?
So they had sought a waiver from the stormwater management and land disturbance permit and have an approved order of conditions on the site with the Conservation Commission, and then has also provided a SWIP. So Moran and Cameron is the firm that put together the SWIP, and Moran and Cameron are doing the weekly visits.
Oh, all right. Any way we can get them to at least answer the question?
They have been forwarding their reports, but I'm not too sure whether or not they have a surveyor as part of their staff. Usually, sometimes they're just engineers, so that would need to be surveyed out. So that would rely on Al to provide that information.
All right. So solution to this would, or at least a partial solution, would be just so the monuments, and I mean monuments like trees, monuments like whatever's supposed to be there, just someone has to be pointed out. I think the Cemetery Commission has probably got to get out there, or somebody that's very knowledgeable with the cemetery, and just say this is a historic tree and so is that, and somebody could put an X on a plan, and so all this stuff is
Near any trees.
done.
I'm not going near any historic trees. The trees that are coming down are down. The site's cleared.
Yeah,
The site's all done. The site's all cleared and everything.
Done.
I've been out there
Okay.
quite a few times.
So are you saying that the site was never surveyed for these historic trees prior to, or are they actually located on the plan, which
I
is
don't know what
typical?
historic trees you're talking about. I went to the subdivision plan Rebecca has on the board. I marked and staked the areas for a 20-foot buffer zone.
Right.
And I
Yeah,
did not
yeah.
touch anything in that 20-foot buffer zone.
All right.
That site is well underway, Wally. There's houses, foundations.
Yep.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm talking for the future. You know, Kathy mentioned a couple of big historic trees, and we've had some issues with that in town too, where somebody oops, and you know, next thing you know, 5 houses have firewood. So I just want to make sure that if there is a
So
monument there, that it should be marked.
historic trees are protected under the scenic bylaw. We don't have a historic district and or historic designation for trees, as far as I know, in the general bylaw, zoning bylaw in the town of Groveland. The only tree issue that's come up is the scenic bylaw, which is on Center Street and King Street, which prohibit you from cutting trees without going through due process. So I don't know how you would identify historic trees versus non-historic trees and the like. But it's certainly something we can consider, unless there's something in the regulations that I'm not familiar with.
Yeah, the only thing on that is that they're marked and identified during the process, and they're just put on the plan as whether it be a large tree or just where it actually physically is. But we're kind of moved along with that. I just wanted to make sure that during any future construction, that if there is something that could be misconstrued or unidentified, that we know what it is. And that's all. And then this 20-foot buffer zone, I think we've got that nailed down with a bright orange plastic fence, and that'll take care of that. And then the fencing and other stuff that's going to happen in the cemetery is at a later phase, I believe.
So on
And I
the
think I can,
you'll see that you have the 20-foot buffer on lot 1 and lot 2, and then you have the 15-foot buffer on lot 3 in the back. And then you'll see parcel A, and parcel A is the parcel that really has the least amount of screening. When you literally stand out there, you can see over into the cemetery, you can see the road, you're very close, but that is the area, in fact, where you're gonna have the privacy fence and the additional trees planting, which are currently not there. But you'll see that lot 2 does not have any screening, and parcel A is a fence that has not been erected. So it's really only the 20-foot on lot 1 and 2, and then a 15 in lot 3.
Also, Rebecca, per the plan, parcel A and parcel B will be remanded back to the town of Groveland.
Good.
That parcel A will be owned by the town of Groveland and the cemetery committee to do with what they're going to have a small access road there that, and the rest of it is going to remain untouched.
Okay.
But if that's, where are you cutting into the hill? Where does that begin on that plan? Because I'm concerned about the erosion. It looks like they just hacked into that hill to get that road in there.
Well, I'm concerned about the erosion too.
Yeah.
Much like Atwood Estates, this plan has some flaws. I met with Peter and I met with Maureen Cameron, my engineer, and we discussed that. And we're going to be submitting a revised plan, which would grade and stabilize that slope in a better manner of which is designed on that plan. And hopefully this board will be before this board on the 15th, and hopefully they'll approve it. And I will grade that hill and stabilize it. I'd like to do it right now if I could, but I need a revision to the plan.
You don't think it needs a retaining wall of some form?
The retaining wall is a problem. The retaining wall that's designed on that plan can't be built. It's almost as high as the ridge. It's ineffective. I had this conversation with 2 engineers last week, and we all agreed we're going to submit a plan to the board and ask for a minor revision so that we can grade that properly and stabilize that properly.
Could I ask the planning board to get a town engineer to get in there and look on the town side of it, what's better for the cemetery, his plan, or what should be done?
Well, the plan's got to be reviewed by our engineer. So that would be Peter.
Peter was there at the meeting. We discussed the best way to handle this.
Has he met with the cemetery commissioners to ask their opinion?
I don't, is there any of the cemetery commission engineers?
I don't believe he met with them yet, but he was present at, I believe, at the pre-construction meeting.
Absolutely. I met with the cemetery commission at the pre-construction meeting. I went over the fence, the planting, and everyone at that meeting seemed to be satisfied after they reviewed the plan.
Al, do you think you'll have that plan ready for submission on the 15th, or do you think it'll be a little longer?
I'm trying to have it for the 15th. I want to have it stabilized. I think it could be a minor revision. I think Peter and Maureen Cameron will agree, and hopefully the board will agree, and we'll get it approved and get it done. I'd like to get that done.
My
So
one
my-
thing is I would like to get the plan prior to the meeting, not just on the 15th, so the TEC can actually
Yeah,
review the plan
it's
and
just,
provide comments.
yeah, it's just going to be a sketch, Rebecca. It's not going to be a big thing. It's going to be what you call it, Peter? Something sketch.
I believe Maureen Cameron called it a construction sketch.
Yeah, construction sketch. Thank you.
Okay. So, all right. So we've got a couple of things, and thanks for bringing that up, Al, because that's, and Kathy too, because that's something that obviously you picked up on, and that was one of the flaws in the plans. Happens sometimes. So, so what I would recommend to float a motion, if you wanted to get it on a motion, is to get that orange fence up where there's no cut zones are for those lots that we just talked about, and then hold off on the bond reduction till the 15th, so we can figure out if there's any change in the plan. I mean, I'm all for minor changes, but it still has to be reviewed, and it's going to put a change on the plan. And then if it's all set on the 15th, we could just slide that on the agenda for then.
That bond reduction is for paving.
I was just gonna ask you, Al. It was
Nothing to do with anything else. It's for paving.
just for the paving? Yeah,
Yes.
because we held it back because you didn't have it done, so.
I missed it by one day. I was hoping I was going to get it the last week.
Exactly. I remember that. I remember that meeting and everything, so.
Yeah.
I'm in favor for the bond reduction for the paving, definitely.
Is the paving already done? It doesn't look like it's all the way done.
It's binder.
The binder is, yes,
To the circle at the end?
yes.
Have you looked at it?
I've driven down there, yes.
Okay, and you saw the cut in the hill and you saw the condition of everything and you're still okay with all that? Okay,
He just approved that he was gonna take care of the hill and everything.
he says he's
Yeah.
going, it remains to be
That-
seen. How much bond are you
You
holding?
know, this is ridiculous. I'm sick of being accused of stuff.
No,
Wait
I
a
just,
minute.
You don't know me. You don't know me.
you don't know me.
All right, guys, we're not having a fight here. No
Yeah.
argument.
So the bond reduction on the 80, Pete, was that the actual number for the binder?
Yes, that was the binder course pavement estimate, and I can confirm that I've been out there and they have installed the full length of the roadway and binder.
And when was that done? Just
That was done over a month ago now. It was like Al said, the day after
Day after we,
the board
Okay.
met last.
Right.
all right. And the remaining 200 that would hold, does that include the 25% over? Since I don't have a construction schedule in front of me.
Yes.
Sorry, Al, I was just asking Pete.
Let me bring that up real quick. Yeah, so we have a 20% contingency included in the total number.
Okay. So it gives us 40 to play with. What's the estimate on an erosion plan and retaining anything, retaining wall, fencing, foliage, et cetera, that would have to take place for that hill? Anybody's guess?
What was the question again, Wally?
Well, if we got to do a minor mod and he's got to do a fix for the erosion, and it's,
Yeah.
hats off for taking care of that,
Well,
what's that
you
going to cost?
You gotta prove it first, so the 15th, he's gonna submit it before the 15th, so we get.
yeah, we don't know, right. We don't have the construction plan in front of us, so we're just shooting out of the hip. You can't guess on it, so
Right.
I would,
That's what
I would give him his bond money back for the road because he did do the road, and it looks like he's gonna be forthright on this and take care of the erosion, and you know, I don't know if I'm right, but Pete, I think it looks like some grass mats and some seeding.
Yep,
I'll stabilize it.
definitely.
So that's about what, 5?
Probably not even.
Something like that?
Yeah,
The equipment
that's
there?
probably right, Wally, but the thing is that the bond already includes numbers for the fence, the landscaping, and the retaining wall that's in, on the originally endorsed plan, so.
Oh, all right, so that'll work.
Yeah.
That'll work, so we have coverage on that. Okay, that's good, as long as we got that covered, just in case it went over, but it sounds like we do. So, okay, so fencing up, fifth plan reviewed by you, Pete, and presentation to the board for the 15th. Orange fence up along that no cut zone for now. Get that out of there. And then, is there any way you can just give the presentation to the board of just an overall assessment as part of the review for the erosion, since you got to do it anyway? Just how things are going, the presentation, how it looks, et cetera.
You asking me, Wally?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can certainly take a look and give an overall report back to the board.
Okay. Kathy, are you involved with the cemetery commissioners at all?
I'm married to one.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know Mike was on there. Yeah, do they have a sketch? I guess you know well. Do you have a sketch of what they're planning on doing with that fencing, or does Al have it? I remember that being a big discussion point, but
I went over that with Mike on the cemetery commission.
Yeah.
We had the complete plan in the office, the building inspector and myself, the cemetery commission. And I reviewed that all thoroughly with Mike. I went over the fence, the location, the shrubbery. We did a pretty thorough overlook at that plan. And
yeah.
everyone seemed to be satisfied when they left that meeting.
Do you have any pictures of what the fencing would look like? That's sort of just to get it in the file. I mean, what type of fence is it going to be?
I haven't decided yet.
All right. Any way you can come up with some possibilities? Just throw it in, because I don't know what it is. Last I heard, it was going to be some wrought iron thing, fencing, but I don't know if that got thrown out as too pricey or just not private enough. That was years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. The plan just says 6-foot privacy fence, so that's what I'll put up.
Okay. Well, obviously you have to meet with them on what's going to be acceptable. You know, what's it going to look like? That's what I meant. You know, 6-foot stock gauge, 6-foot plastic, 6-foot vinyl, 6-foot. I don't know what it is. I just want to get something in the file, because you're right. It's kind of elusive as to what it's going to be looking like.
The 15th, could you just, that's a rough idea what you think you're going to put up there?
Sure.
That'd be fine.
Is this something that has to be decided between the cemetery and the developers, or is it just the developers own per se what they want?
Now, the commission had a big input on this.
Any of the updated plans that are received by the developer will be shared with Rocktower, who is the communication contact for the cemetery commission. And I would suggest that any of the comments and or concerns or desires of the commission, I'm not sure which one it is, but regardless, should be put in writing so that we can then have appropriate record of such. So moving forward, it won't be a he said, she said type of game, but I have been communicating with Rock and showing him all of the updates and letting him know where we are in the process. I just haven't heard back from him. So I would suggest that we continue to reach out to them and ask that any communications be documented appropriately.
Roger that.
Okay.
Okay. And Kathy's letter, is that submitted over to, since it's public record?
I did include it in your packet, yes.
No, I mean submitted over.
To the cemetery commission?
Yeah.
I can certainly, I did send that over to Rock, but I can certainly ask them to review it as well if you'd like.
Well, it's just public record, and she raises some good concerns. So, and we're obviously addressing one of them, 2 of them tonight. So, if that's okay with Kathy, I mean, that's.
Sure.
get everybody on board with that. So I'm sure it'll circulate right back. So, all right. So with that, do we have a motion to fly? Fencing, plans, and then the 80, because the binder's down.
I would say
Right.
the board to recommend that they make two separate motions, one
I was
for
gonna say we can make
fencing.
two separate motions. So the first one would be the fencing and the erosion. And then at the 50, show us some type of fencing that he's gonna put up for privacy.
So motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Wally,
Aye.
Jim,
I,
Brad,
Aye.
Bob, yes, too. Okay. So the next one would be the bond reduction.
So motion.
Yep. Second it. All in favor?
Aye.
So this is to release the bond down to 200,000 remaining, correct?
That is correct.
The hot top binder. All in favor, yes?
Aye.
Yes, aye.
Yep. Okay, Brad, yep. Jim?
Aye.
I,
Well, yep, me too.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right. Next item.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, thank you, Al.
See you guys.
Okay, Benjamin Street Extension to Hulu Homes, July 16th, 2020, field report. Vote to endorse approved modification plan. Vote to approve and design designated members signage for the tripartite agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we should start first with the July 16th, 2020 field report. I think that will also tie into the next item on the agenda, which would be 733 Salem Street. And I'd like to invite Peter Ellison with TEC to speak to the field report that they had issued, detailing some concerns in terms of an access road that was not established in the plans, as well as cutting trees beyond the limit of clearing shown on the endorsed plan.
Yep, so TEC has been making weekly field visits and visits after large rain events at the site. I would say overall, the site's in satisfactory condition. They've been responsive to my request to add erosion control or repair it here and there. Back in July, we made a visit and we noticed an area that was being used by the tree clearing contractor to cut between the Oakland Terrace site and the Benjamin Street site. The sites basically abut each other, so it was an easy cut through for the contractor to easily gain access to both sites. The problem is that roadway or that little construction access between the two sites was never shown on any of the design plans or the plans that got approved by the board. So that was one issue. And then the second issue was there was a limit of clearing shown on lot 68F, I believe it is, 68F, that was meant to provide a buffer between lot 68F and lot 68G. So this is an area that's internal to the Oakland Terrace subdivision. And that was fully cleared when they went out there with their clearing contractor. So they did clear beyond the approved limit of clearing in that location.
but this is also the same company who inadvertently had the wrong markers and went on the butter's property, correct?
That's correct.
So it appears to me that this contractor seems to be taking liberties and seems to be doing what they please.
Well, you know what, and Jim, you're right, but I also, Pete, they did, I don't know why they didn't have an arborist on site. if there were any problems with trees, that was what I heard. There could have been a problem with the trees, but there should have been an arborist report if the trees were, condemned. And I think they had enough time to do that. But where they constructed the roadway between Oakland and Benjamin was wrong. But I will say it makes a better pass through instead of using the town roads, which is probably 14 feet wide in the destruction of that town road because of, where it is and how it lays. So maybe they modify the plan so they can use that construction roadway. Am I right, Rebecca, with that?
They're probably pretty much all done for that. Now, they just wanted to get the trees down because of the big logging truck and the chipper to get in there.
But I think it made more sense to use for between instead of ruining the town road.
Oh, absolutely.
But there should have been a plan modification, if I'm right, Peter or somebody else. But the trees, I don't understand, why so many trees, over the limit of cut.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly if that just wasn't communicated to the clearing contractor or if, they originally left those and then looked at them and determined they weren't in good health and then took them down. But yeah, I can't really speak to why it happened. As far as the cut through road, I don't disagree. It probably does save damage to the town roads. Benjamin Street is, I have a hard time street in my small SUV, so I can only imagine what that would be like driving a large logging truck. But like you said, Brad, there should have been a plan approved by the board before it happened.
And there's no community damage or anything that we could do to this company for doing these actions?
I think you can ask them to restore the area that was disturbed in that dirt road, have them restore it back to its original condition, for sure.
And if I'm not mistaken, weren't we supposed to promise the abutted neighbor the wood for her personal use?
Yeah, so the trees that are on the property of 9 Bell Street actually have not been cut yet. So there will be some further clearing that will happen at a later date. So,
Okay.
And they've been reminded of that condition several times, and they're well aware of it, and that they intend to give her the wood.
Thank you.
All right.
I
So
mean, I don't know what you guys want to do. I mean, this is obviously a company who's taking liberties, right or wrong or indifferent. I don't know. So how do you guys want to handle this?
Well, I need a revised plan as to what they're going to do with that, how they're going to, and then how you're going to, a landscape plan, obviously, to retree it and put it back the way it was, and then include some kind of pricing index for that, because that's going to be a lot of trees. And is that the only issue besides the roadway? Was there another issue with that too?
Those were the only 2 issues that I noted.
Okay.
And there wasn't a lot of trees there either.
Well,
I also want to note that there are abutters and neighbors on the call this evening if they would like to open up or ask for any additional public comment.
Okay, yep. If there's any public comment, state your name, your address.
Hi, my name is Kai Colombo, and I'm at 147 Washington Street. I've been walking back there quite a bit and just trying to figure out the difference between where the stakes are and the neon tags on the tree and where the erosion barrier is, or the erosion bales. And there are trees that have been cut inside, or I should say outside of the legitimate cutting zone. There was one huge oak that was cut down, which I took a tape measure out there, and it had a diameter of like 35 inches. So, and I don't know, it certainly was not a tree that was in bad shape. It was fine. So I don't know whether there were some trees left and they went, okay, I'm gonna go for this one because it's a money tree. Or I don't know. I'm not really sure. And my question continues with so there's the erosion barrier with the bales that are staked, and then there's the tags, which you just, I guess, follow a visual line between the tags to see where the tree cut line is. Is that correct?
Bill, can you answer that?
What was that? I'm sorry. You asking me or
Yeah, I'm asking you. Could you answer her question for us?
regarding the tree cutting?
Yeah, elaborate on the ribbons, I guess, the
The ribbons,
limit
I
of tree
guess,
cut
marked, but, you know.
and how they're marked and how somebody can actually view what's going on that site.
Well, I marked out the hay bale line for the DeHulus, which is the limit of work
Okay,
that we're
so
proposing.
the erosion zone is the limit of work.
That's what I marked out. I marked out the erosion controls because they need to know where to put those.
Okay, so those are different from the tied off trees. So we're following the erosion zone, which is inside actually some of the trees that they have tagged. So I'm confused as to, first of all, is all the cutting done back in that area behind 147 and behind McAllister's, which I don't know what the number is on that lot, but I can't read it. Is that tree cutting done back there?
Along the property line I recall at the meetings, we discussed keeping roughly a 30-foot, I believe it was 30-foot tree line along the line of McAllister and Colombo, along that property line.
Yep.
The tree line that I show in the middle was never intended to be the limit of work. In my opinion, it was just what I had shown for potentially what the tree line would be if they didn't want to cut the trees down. I mean, he owns the trees in the middle there. I don't understand why he couldn't cut those trees, regardless of whether I show that line or not. It was not intended to be the limit of tree clearing. Limit of tree clearing.
So what is intended to be the limit of tree cutting? And have they finished with
The
what
limit of work was the hay bale line, was the absolute limit of work that we proposed. The tree line that we showed, I remember during the discussion at the hearings, we discussed the tree line along McAllister, along the Washington Street side. We wanted to keep a buffer of trees between that and those lots. So we offered, I believe it was 30 feet, which is what he basically held. You can see the proposed line, actually the red line is the tree line. We actually kept more trees along that line than what we proposed. And then there is going to be more cutting because we have to loop the water line. So along the backside of Foth, I can't remember what number it is, 149 maybe, Washington Street. And down through Meadow Lane, there's going to be a water line being installed there. You can see the proposed temporary erosion control is staked out.
Sure.
And it's going to follow that path. It's going to be about 20 foot wide to get that water line in. They'll be able to swing the machines around and travel through that area. So that will also be cleared. We had to get a permit from conservation first, which we just recently did. So that'll be happening when they put the water line in. They'll be clearing more along that line, that proposed TEC line, the erosion control line. So I don't know why. I wasn't there when they cut the trees down, but I can tell you, I did stake out the limit, and I told him we had 30 feet off the property line, and he said, believe he basically held that. You can see the red line on the plan we presented, and that's what it is. So it's actually inside that.
Yeah, he actually did a fairly good job holding that line. There are some discrepancies, and there are a couple of big trees that were taken down, and he may not have even known that they were being taken down, but they were. So, my big concern is I don't want to see more trees coming down back there than what we've already got. I understand about the water line, and, you know, when you introduced that to the Conservation Committee, you said, yeah, it's gonna be a 3-foot trench,
Yeah.
you know, which is hilarious because, yeah, you gotta get all your equipment back there, and so we're really talking about between 15 and 20 feet, not 3 feet as
Well,
far
a
as.
3-foot trench is what they dig. They dig the 3-foot trench, put the water line in. That's a typical width of a backhoe or machine's bucket.
Right,
But
I
yes,
guess.
they have to
I
travel.
guess
The machine's 8-9 foot wide. They have to be able to get that machine down through there
Sure,
and turn
sure.
at the same time.
Understood. Understood. So the question was put out there, you know, how much disruption was there going to be? And your answer was, well, it's a 3-foot trench, which I think is a little bit misleading to those of us that are kind of neophytes in this area. But anyway, so there's going to
I
be
disagree with that. I said it was a 3-foot trench, but I never said it wouldn't be a 15, 20 foot wide area that they may have to cut to be able to turn around the machines and bring 20-foot long pipes in there and lay them in the ground. So they have to be able to construct that pipe. So
Yeah, I get that now. All right, so is the tree cutting behind the 147 and 141 done?
I believe it is. You'd have to ask the DeHulus. I'm not sure. I think they're here.
Okay, is anybody from representing the DeHulus on this call that can answer that question?
I do want to just personally note that while we are talking about tree cutting, that is in correlation with the plan. But once those lots are mortgaged and sold, there's nothing that's on those deeds that will prohibit the new homeowner from taking down any one of those trees. So I think it's also important to note that while we discuss this evening, you're talking about what's happening during construction of the homes, but that doesn't mean that in the future, that person who buys that home can't remove those trees unless the planning board had put on some type of restriction that eliminates their ability to clear their lot or private lot. So I just want to make sure there's that clear distinction and that the planning board can weigh in on that for the neighbors and the residents, because I think that I don't want there to be any confusion or misleading information.
Thank you, Rebecca.
But I think the issue that we're talking about more so is invaded another piece of property which they didn't have the rights to because it didn't present to the board prior to doing so, correct?
Well, my understanding, it's only my understanding, they got permission from that owner to be able to cross that property. But I was not a party to that discussion, but I'm sure the DeHulus can probably explain, and I believe they did explain. They explained it to me, they had permission. I can imagine if they didn't have permission, that guy would have probably been screaming. Had he known. If he didn't know, then I guess he would know now. But I was not present when the trees were cut, so I don't know what went on when the trees were cut. I was there prior. I'm usually there before they do the tree cutting.
Are the DeHulus on the line?
I'm here. Steve did
Oh,
say
all right.
TJ Potato, and he got permission to go through that back corner of his lot to go over and do the tree clearing at Benjamin.
Okay. So we need a plan to address that on both landscaping, tree planting, and what else do we need, Pete, to obviously have something submitted to get this squared away?
No, we have a plan submitted.
Yeah, I guess my question, you know, when I looked at the plan and I saw the limit of clearing, this is internal to the site now. This is between two of the proposed lots. Does the board expect them to meet that limit of clearing, I guess is the question, or are they within their rights to cut those trees down that are internal to the property? I don't know the answer to that. But what raised a red flag for me was I looked on the plan and saw where the limit of clearing line was drawn, and then in the field it was not. It was different.
And limited clearing is approved in the plan. So we need,
Yeah, but it's on their own property, so I think they're in the right to do it.
and so what's the fix? That's what I'm looking for.
They're gonna landscape it.
What needs to be fixed?
So they're gonna put lawn in.
Yeah, they're gonna put lawn and landscape.
And you're gonna keep that big wide path?
someone's property. They're gonna have a lawn, I imagine, and
Yeah.
you talking about the roadway they built, or are you talking about the little triangular piece of
We're talking
trees
about,
that we cut down?
that's what I'm talking about.
I think we're talking about the roadway.
I'm
The
talking about
roadway,
yeah.
the roadway should be, I would imagine, be restored to some extent. I don't know what was taken
Yeah,
down up there.
I would suggest that they'll just restore the roadway between the two lots on the other neighbor's land, definitely.
Well,
But
there
the,
wasn't any tree, there was one tree taken down to be able to access from Oakland to Benjamin Street.
yep,
And
that's
that
fine.
That was on purpose, you know, in that we came in so we wouldn't go in the buffer zone. We took down one tree so that we wouldn't make any changes. And that's all that was done. And when that last lot is all done and landscaped, it's gonna be fine.
What's fine mean? Closed in or?
But the road does show that it is in the buffer zone.
I'm sorry, Rebecca?
But the road that you showed on the plan that Bill submitted does show that the road is in the buffer zone.
The
It-
path
it is.
that the machine went?
Yep, that's the machine road.
It is in the buffer.
Well, it does show that it was in the buffer zone a little bit. Yeah, I suppose it does. That's, I mean, the erosion control has all been put back, and I believe Peter's reviewed that, right? Since we've gone back and fixed everything and
Yeah, they have the right amount of erosion control surrounding that area right now. I think the board's asking Dina to just once you're done with that construction road, to just restore it to its original condition. So, you know, whatever that means, you can have Bill come up with a plan. It doesn't have to be very extensive if you only took down one tree.
Yeah,
That's
we
correct.
we can propose something for that.
Okay, that fixes that problem.
All I'm looking for is consistency. All I know is the same company who went over a butter's property line and inadvertently or whatever, accidentally went over their line. And now all of a sudden did a second incident in which they violated, which was supposed to be the original plan. So I'm just trying to see a pattern here or not a pattern here, and I'm just trying to make sure that no more of these inconsistencies happen. That's all.
Well, so, and I agree with you. So we gotta get a plan submitted for a landscape plan to restore that. And then, yeah, the little area that the other 7,000 square foot piece or whatever that is, will become someone's lawn. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
All right. So that's fine. That can be included on the same plan. So that's easy. What else do we have for issues here?
Hi, this is Nancy Suiza.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. During that microburst we had a couple of weeks ago, it washed out part of the end of my driveway. I spoke to Dina. They came down and put up 2 hay bales. Unfortunately, because when their construction companies came in, they parked across the end of my driveway. Not only Davco, but also the paving company. And I had a berm out in front of that driveway, which kind of angled the water down the road to the culvert in front of my house. Well, that's kind of gone now. And it's not only washing out my driveway where the hay bales are, but beyond that. I'm kind of concerned that is, you know, it's got to be addressed. Otherwise, you know, if I didn't have a 4-wheel drive backing out of my driveway, I'd be hanging up my oil can. You know, it's that much of a problem. So I'm hoping that could be addressed.
Sounds legit.
yeah, Nancy, and board, when we are able to get back into Benjamin Street to finish, we'll definitely take care of any, you know, problem that you're having, whether it's put in a new berm or whatever it is. We're going to address everything to make sure that nothing happens to your driveway or your property.
Well, thank you, Tina. We appreciate that as the board speaks.
Yes, I thank you. As I say that, if I didn't have a four-wheel drive, I wouldn't be able to get out of my driveway right now. So as long as that's going to be addressed, I'm more than happy. Thank you.
Is there a timeline on that?
We're hoping to get this plan endorsed so we can get it recorded. And at that point, we will be able to get the rest of the paperwork complete that we need to do so that we can proceed with building of the road there on Benjamin Street. So I'm hoping that tonight the board is going to vote to have the plan endorsed.
Well, if we get a mod to the plan, how are we
It's the
going to do that?
modification plan that you're voting on to endorse.
It's
So,
not the,
oh, we don't have a plan in front of us, right?
You have the Mylar plans.
the bylaws for Benjamin Street. It's not the ones that we got in front of us. That's
Oh,
the submit
No,
another one.
not the plan you have in front of you, was just to go over those two
Right,
issues.
exactly. So
But the plan that you're voting to endorse, the Mylars on, I believe Bob has those Mylars.
Rebecca does, and
Well, aren't we going to change it?
They don't include anything about the roadway, and they don't include anything about re-landscaping that particular area, at least on the Mylars.
So we need a separate page?
I think it'd be a separate,
Yeah, you're going to submit a separate page for that?
yeah, it would be a separate issue. I would think it's a repair of what they did. So it could be a whole separate plan that we submit for a modification of either one of the two projects, or just a separate issue altogether. It's not really tied to either one of them. It's something they did to make access easier. And
Well,
it
we don't
needs to
have
be
an
fixed.
approved plan yet to modify, so.
I would say I would
Whatever
recommend.
was done on that plan, what was done between those two projects was way in the back corner of the lot and has nothing to do with the actual construction of the road.
Yeah.
Okay, Pete, how do you want to proceed with this? Should we get a separate sheet on this?
Yeah, I have
Or-
no problem. I have no problem handling that as a separate sheet. Being that it's really,
And it needs to be part of the plan if you're going to endorse.
Right.
So that's the only thing. It can be a separate sheet, that's fine. But in terms of a legal endorsed plan, it needs to be one plan. So you either need to include that sheet with the plan that you're submitting to the registry and endorsing, or you need to decide that you don't want to send it off to the registry and you want to treat it as a separate plan entirely.
I agree. So what's the flavor?
Well, I think they want to get Benjamin Street extension going, so let's do a separate plan and we can endorse Benjamin Street. And then they could get another separate plan for the cleanup of the back lot.
So
Mr.
we're
Chair,
gonna have a,
would you,
we're gonna have a modification.
Mr. Chair, are you recusing yourself from this conversation or are you acting as a voting member?
I'm acting as a voting member because of the Oakland Terrace and Salmon Street.
Did we address this before? On this one? Did we get a ruling back on that?
Yeah, I did, because.
From the ethics board or from?
Huh?
I don't know, when we last visited this, I thought you were gonna submit something to the ethics board and get that letter on file or something.
No.
Did that occur?
In regards to Benjamin Street, so let's just focus on Benjamin Street. The Benjamin Street plan is the one that needs to be endorsed right now. So if you're not voting on the Benjamin Street, then
I'm curing myself on that one, definitely.
so then let's just talk about the Benjamin Street plan. The Benjamin Street plan contains the access road. The board needs to decide whether or not the access road needs to be a separate plan that has a landscaping and putting it back to original prior to endorsement, or whether or not they will vote to endorse the Benjamin modification plan this evening and then address the landscaping at an alternative date. So that should be between Brad, Wally, and Jim.
Yeah, I feel that if this plan had been recorded and then something happened, then we could do, do something as the latter, but where we haven't even got an endorsed Mylar yet for the plan, we got to attach it as a sheet, and it's got to be all done, recorded at the registry at the same time, because now it's part of the plan. So, so how fast can that occur?
Are we talking about like seeding, like really to bring it, to restore it back? We didn't do anything out there. All we did was drive a machine. Like, what exactly is it that we need to restore?
You did a modification by either by accident or by, seemed like common sense at the time, but it wasn't on the plan. So you have a Mylar that's sitting there that isn't endorsed yet, nor recorded in the registry, and then you just changed it. So they have to be one and the same. And we don't have an approved plan to file a modification yet. So what you got to do is come up with that other sheet, which is easy to do, and then attach it as a third, fourth, whatever, how many pages we got on this sucker, okay, to be endorsed and recorded, and then it's done.
But
so
it's
how
not
fast can you get that done?
Than a road, like a path. It's like a path that a car went over, and it's all like grown in. And I mean, Peter, you saw it, right? Are you the only person that saw it? Peter?
No, I went back there and I saw it. When I saw it, it was not grown over. It was clearly an access route that machinery could go down.
I saw it too. Wally.
Yeah.
I think what we could do is, I think we can maybe motion to hold on to the endorsement until the sheet's updated and then put it on the next agenda.
Yeah, that would be fine. That's exactly what I was gunning for. So
Yeah,
that way
I think
we
it has
can
to be-
endorse them all. Yeah.
Or you can vote to endorse when the planner receives the updated plan and approved by TEC, I think, as well. I mean, that's,
Yeah, it's one and the same, or just get it in and we sign it all on the 15th.
I can get a plan within the next couple days for Peter to look at and say, okay, they're gonna plant some grass there. And then
No, you cannot excuse the fact that you guys violated the original plan and that you went over the property line that you were entitled to.
But can we all admit that it was done for the right reason? Sometimes you have to do things for the
I get that. No, that's fine, but you didn't bring it to the board, you didn't bring it to Pete, you didn't bring it to Rebecca, you didn't let us notify, you just went about yourself and said, oh, that's okay, I can do this. But you can't.
Unfortunately, had to be done at that moment. It wasn't something that we could wait to talk to everybody and get.
Well, that might be true, but the consequences because you did that is where we stand today.
I understand that, but the thing is, we didn't even change it. Like, if anybody goes out there to see it, we took down nothing. We went on the backside of the other person's property. And we just basically drove from there to there.
If there wasn't a violation, Peter would not have brought it to our attention and wrote it up. So therefore, there was a violation.
And I do beg to differ. I think that there was more disturbed than what you're referring to, Dina. And it's one thing to ask permission. During these town meetings, you were granted permission, which is great. You ignored what was granted to you and just decided to make a decision on your own. And at this point, you should be asking forgiveness and figuring out what you can do to remedy the situation. Because if everybody just did what you did, well, I had to make a decision. I had guys standing around. They had to go to work. Everybody needed to get paid. I understand that. But if everyone did that, we'd be screwed in this town.
I disagree. Thank you for your comment.
All right, I'm going to make a motion that we receive the additional sheet required, reviewed by TEC prior to, put this thing on for the 15th, and when that's complete and approved, we'll endorse this plan and move on. I need a second on that.
I second that.
Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Jim?
Aye. Yeah.
Okay. Motion carries. See you on the 15th. Make sure that TEC gets that valuable time, which we can actually float at the moment, was that it's been standard practice that that reviews get submitted weeks in advance to be fully reviewed and not rushed at the last minute. And that we've been doing that for probably a decade and a half. And I know there's little things that come up during the week, but if we have to review this practice again, is that there's got to be a minimum of 2 weeks submission prior to a meeting to the review engineer, because sometimes the issue can get resolved itself just by going back and forth between the engineers in that 2-week period of time. And we don't waste everybody's time on that. So if that wasn't clear as a board protocol, I'm going to make that motion again, because we've had it in place as a policy of the board that, again, has been in place for a decade and a half, but maybe everybody didn't know it. So motion to make that clear and reinstate or clarify or put in bold letters somewhere that we're not going to accept anything rushed in within 2 weeks' time. It's just, there's no reason for it. And that's why we've been doing this for about 15 years.
I second the motion, Wally.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye, Brad.
Aye.
Who's missing? Jim?
Aye.
Okay. So noted. Motion carries unanimous. Okay, next item on the list. What do we got here? 7.
So it's just,
What's with,
so we just need to figure out whether or not the board is okay with the fact that they've removed the trees beyond the tree line and that they're going to replace that with lawn, or if there's further discussion necessary, or if it's just a documentation that they are going to do that, with the understanding that there is no cut zone or no easement that would prohibit any of those trees being taken down in the future. But I believe Bill Holt just stated that there is no tree cutting that's going to be taking place other than what's associated with the water line installation along down Washington, which would probably entail about a 20-foot area or path in which they would be there to move around. So unless the neighbors have additional information that they'd like to weigh in on, and as well as the board, if they have any specific questions or on the record, that would
put
be
it in the landscape plan. Address it there.
that one has already been, that plan has been endorsed and recorded at the registry.
So then we get a mod. All right, so what's the flavor of, what are you guys gonna do with it? Just gonna leave it? And how many trees came out of there?
There wasn't very many. It was probably 3 or 4 at the most.
All right, so submit a landscape plan for a mod for that, since it's on a separate plan,
And,
approved plan.
down the line, it does make the lots, both lots better.
Which is fine, but let's get it down written so we can right the wrong, that's all.
Yeah,
Right,
just
that's
submit
all I'm saying.
a landscape plan to the board to address that issue.
Yep.
Probably get them both done on the 15th. Is that it?
That's it. Can
Okay, move that.
Make a motion?
You got it.
Can we second it?
Second.
Aye.
Second.
Yeah.
No.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. All
All
set.
right. Thanks.
All right.
So what's up next?
It's, let's see. Center Street, map 09, parcel 002. Paul, excuse me,
Rashonda.
name.
Yeah.
And anybody representing this?
Yeah, Paul Marshall.
Marshallin? Okay. A potential for filling for a CSD or a PUD.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just wanted to offer some background. Mr. Marchanda had contacted me in reference to the bylaw and the way that the bylaw was written concerning the requirements of a conservation subdivision design, which is the CSD, and a plan unit development, which is a PUD, and whether or not there were any specific requirements in terms of the connection into sewer. There is some conflicting language in there. It does say in the PUD that you shall connect to sewer, but then it also mentions some sewage treatment facility and whether or not it needs to meet the Board of Health regulations. And then under the CSD, it says that you must connect to sewer, and then also has similar language in terms of a wastewater system. So the gentleman is here to speak in regards to a project they are considering and to see whether or not the board would look into clarifying what the intent of the bylaw is.
I know both of those since I wrote or had a hand in writing them both, but I'd be interested in the presentation. Paul, where's the parcel?
The parcel's on Central Street. It's the very last parcel in Groveland before you get to West Newbury on the left-hand side. It's owned by Martha Cadel, K-A-D-E-L.
How big's the parcel?
It's about almost 12 acres, I think.
Uh-huh.
I haven't
Okay.
really done much work on it, so I don't tend to really know. Right there, that's it right there, yep.
Is it a lot of wetland back there, or is it,
According to the GIS, there's wetlands on the left-hand side, I think, as you come in, but back on. I haven't been on the site. I've really been just asked to look at the potential for what zoning would apply to this thing, and the two things that came up was the CSD and PUD. And I guess the only purpose of my being on the Zoom meeting tonight is kind of talk about what I see as somewhat conflicting languages. So I need to know if either one of these zoning overlays require to be on town sewer as a requirement. If we start with the CSD one, I think that's pretty easy. I think that's actually more I look at it, I think I convince myself that it doesn't necessarily need to be on sewer, but correct me if I'm wrong. If I look at
both were designed to be on town sewer. The PUD was rewritten back in the, I'm going to say the mid to late 90s. And then CSD was a tool that the town, we put together, and it was supposed to be on sewer, but it reduced the lot sizes, the infrastructure, and then half the parcel, which cannot be wetlands, gets donated to the town. There were several filings under CSD. The most famous one was Wood Street CSD, which was going to have sewer in it to back that claim up. 12 acres, it meets the minimum requirement, but the wetlands is a very interesting question that Brad raised. How much of that is out there, do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I haven't been on the ground yet. We haven't done anything, so I don't, other than to look at the bylaw. But if I can direct your attention just to a couple of things in the CSD bylaw, make sure we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
On page 75, in item K, the whole paragraph talks about soil percolation test and Title V systems, which obviously is talking about septic. And I do see on page 78, there's a little chart, talks about minimum open space requirements, and says that in section 10.2.8.5, says lots modified in the section must be connected to the Groveland Municipal water and sewer system. So when I first did that, I said, well, geez, I guess it has to be on sewer. But now I look at it further, I'm not sure that's correct, because the site's zoned R1, which is 20,000 square foot lots. And that section I just read to you was about reducing lot sizes from 1 acre to 20,000, or from 30,000 to 20,000. So that was about reducing lot sizes from I'm sorry, it's site zone R3, R1, R2. So this site's already 20,000 square feet. So we'll be looking to reduce the lot sizes. So I would suggest that paragraph wouldn't apply in this particular instance.
there's no sewer out there.
Excuse me?
I don't think there's any sewer out there.
There's not. I mean, what I'm saying is the paragraph that says you must be connected to sewer is for lots that are zoned R1 or R2, reducing in size from 1 acre to 20,000, or from 30,000 to 20,000. In those cases, we have to be on town water and sewer. But this particular property is R3, so it's already 20,000 square feet.
So this is
So
RC zone?
I believe it's R3. When you look at
I figure out where this is.
they call it RB, there isn't any RB that I can see in the zoning bylaw. I look at the zoning map. This is the R3.
Yeah, the RB was 30,000 back in the day. Yeah, it was revised.
This is R3, which is 20,000. Unless I'm reading it wrong. But
So,
I think.
Bob
Yeah,
and
nothing
Wally,
out that way
I think,
is that small.
excuse me, I didn't get that.
but as a CSD, Bob and Wally, I think, and Jim, you could offer a waiver if it meets the other criteria about wetland. Am I right?
Well, the CSD is a special permit, so there's a lot we can do with it. I'm just a little foggy again on the zone because if I'm going the right way here down Center Street, this borders up on the RA zone, the 1 acre zone. Is that correct? Because that map was it was hard to see. Yeah.
Rebecca,
I'm
do you have that?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah.
I can't.
So
I
this
can't
is
see it.
right down past Wood Street, right? 7 Star Road, rather?
No, it's Center Street all the way down to the end, or it touches Middle Street.
It's almost.
So Mill Street. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So now I know where you are.
Right on the line.
Okay. We had a couple of house lots down there on the left-hand side. There was a single lot subdivision down there about 5-6 years ago, maybe longer, down there along that way, and three A&Rs that popped up down that way too about 5 years ago, maybe.
Oh, that's down a little further.
That's
down far, yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So this is right on the West Newbury border.
Yeah, right on the line.
I show
So
it as
who's-
R2 zone.
What's the last name again?
Cadel, Kadel.
So I think there's a White House on the left, Wally, and there's like
Yeah.
a cutout turnaround, probably like right around across the street.
That's the town. That's the town line right there.
Yeah.
So
and
is this Victor's house? I think his name is Victor or Vince.
Yeah, I think
Last
that's
house on the
who
left.
it is. Yeah, that's exactly who I think it is. So I think it's
Yeah.
R2, 30,000 square feet.
All right. So down that far, yeah, it has to be at least 30,000 in it. And I can't, without the zoning map in front of me, I can't remember where the RA zone kicks in. But what's the frontage down there?
What do you mean?
How much frontage is on Center Street?
On Center Street.
Again, I don't know. I haven't surveyed the lot. I haven't been working on it at all. All I know is that the way I read the zoning map, maybe Rebecca cannot get it up on the screen. I think it's zoned R3, which is 20,000 square foot lots.
Nah, nothing out there is that small.
I think it's R2, it's 30,000 square feet.
Right. I think that was the old RB zone. So it looks like it might look like that, but it was the old RB going through. So
if we assume it is R2, and that means we would fall into that clause because it would make the lots from 30,000 to 20,000 square feet. It says must be.
Yeah.
So 462 is the road frontage, by the way, on Center Street.
So 462, that's 3 houses.
Yeah, it's showing a lot.
Yeah, we got
462.
Yeah. 462, that's 3 houses easy if it's got, you can access from the frontage, but going down in there. But yeah, and I'll tell you why that was put in there with the sewer, because most of the CSD areas at the time that we were writing the bylaw, they were trying to get the sewer extended out to it, but it was to reduce the size of the lots, because you really didn't need to be doing that up in the RA zones and with larger lots. But as we worked our way into less available land in town, it behooved with the town and the developers to put it onto a sewer system going through. And that's what happened with Whitestone. It eventually connected over, but down the railroad tracks, I believe. So, and that's the PUD regulation. So it is intended for sewer, but in your area up there, and there are some wetlands up there, be nice to know what that is, but that's not 100% out of whack with what we saw on Wood Street with the Wood Street subdivision, but it was a much bigger parcel. And they were able to find ways to get that approved. It never got built, but it was approved in that area. And it reduced the lot sizes down to 20. But if you got a lot of wetlands, you might have a challenge with either one of those.
Yeah, that's understandable, and that's not really the question I'm asking. What I'm asking is that if they were to pursue a CSD on this parcel, and I think what we discovered right now, I guess we do fall into that clause about being tight on sewer.
Yeah.
Is the board inclined to consider septic when there is no sewer available for CSD in this area?
Well, that's where the other thing that came up during that thing was one of those very large common area septic systems. And that went up for discussion in a lot of different areas, but it turned out not to work on the smaller parcels. I think other towns had that. And so it was left to be on the sewer, but I don't think you could get any advantages on a 12 lot parcel. Even if it was 100% buildable, you're only dealing with 6 acres, which includes infrastructure, houses, and everything else. And I don't think you're going to get much out of that compared to if you do indeed have 462 feet of frontage on Center Street. You'd probably get 3 houses if it's accessible, if you can access from the frontage out there, and be a much easier approval process. And if it's wet, donate it to conservation or the town, or just leave it in a trust or something, which would happen anyway, for open green space through the Open Space Committee. And that's how that was written for that Wood Street as well. So I guess it would depend on what application you'd be coming in and what you're trying to do. I don't think you're going to get much yield going with either one of those because the lot's not big enough and there's just a lot of wetland.
Well, let's just talk about the PUD. Again, I haven't looked at this at all, so I can't tell you if that's something they want to pursue or not. I'm just trying to see what would apply. In the PUD, I see on page 86, it talks about storage treatment facilities.
Right. That was the other thing, with the Board of Health and that would have to go through a whole different process on something like that. And that later got reneged and kept it onto the sewer system. But even if you had a common area, a common disposal system, Paul, you're still not going to get the yield out of a small parcel like that.
So Wally, I think, because I think time is of the essence and he's in pre-construction stages here. I think would we be amendable to like a waiver for a CSD if it worked? And I think maybe the language we have to take up with Rebecca if the wording isn't correct, if it's like an absolute.
The shall in the language is correct for the CSD. There's nothing that prohibits Paul from submitting a preliminary a conceptual plan so that we can take a look at it. And that only costs $500, and you don't go too crazy with it, and we would have a better look. It is very difficult to agree on anything on waivers or how we would look at it until we can see what the
unless we see a plan.
Yeah. So, but the conceptual is the cheapest. I mean, it's $500, and the submit it gets reviewed and it shows. But at least we'd have something to look at. So it's very difficult to say, and I'm inclined not to commit to that. But I do know that the shall was for the sewer for the CSDs, and we did have 2 filings Wood Street's one of them where that did connect into sewer. And then Whitestone was a PUD, but that also connected to sewer, and Whitestone too. Both of those went over to sewer in that. So the precedent is there.
I guess I still ask, if he comes in with a plan, or if he comes in with a pre-construction or the $500 plan, which,
The conceptual.
the conceptual or an engineer, would the board be amendable to a waiver for this parcel?
I don't think we can make that determination. The reg is for sewer, and each application speaks for itself. And remember, the waivers have to benefit the town in some sort of way. But it with this small little thing that we're looking at on a visual screen and no conceptual plan, I'm not committed to make any kind of motion or any kind of determination either way. I just can't do that right now until something comes up before us. But I know why we put the CSD on sewer, and that joint disposal system on a wetland, I don't think would work.
So then I
got to
interject and say,
Go ahead.
the language is unclear in terms of what the bylaw wants. And it sounds as though what you're saying is that you would be amenable to reviewing projects on a case-by-case basis. So the individual has to spend a lot of money in terms of having an engineer and designing even a conceptual or a cartoon, as you call it, to get you something. And so I think they're just trying to get a better understanding is if you would even entertain at all, in any general sense, waiving the requirement for sewer. And if you, not in specific to this parcel per se, but just it sounds as though what you are saying is that project by project, you would in fact review it as such, and maybe in the right circumstances, waive that requirement. Is that correct?
No. No, I'm saying submit the plan.
Yeah, it would.
The definition of shall.
Definitely.
Because the
I would.
CSD
I think I would. Bob, I think the definition of shall, I think we got to dive into the shall. I'm sorry, but I've got a problem with that one word.
The shall is for sewer. That's exactly what it was for. I wrote some of this myself, and I know why it was put in there. But a conceptual plan, which is basically a single sheet, is very inexpensive to do, does not require a lot of detail. You can even use USGS overlay to figure out where this wetland is. You don't have to send a crew out at all, really. And you could submit more than one. And it may be self-evident to you, Paul, once you threw something down there that, yeah, no, this would work or it wouldn't work. But the sewer was a hard thing, and that's why it's written in shall.
Can we just move on for the sake of discussion with the PUD just for a moment?
Yeah.
Look at the PUD on page 86. Clearly talks about on chapter paragraph N, storage treatment facilities, and all this kind of stuff. And,
right.
Clearly, black and white.
Yeah, and that was Whitestone.
On the
Yeah.
next page, under item X, it says all building dwellings shall be connected to a Groveland sewer system. So there's definitely a conflict in there. And I just need to know, if it's the board's belief that it has to be on sewer no matter what, then that's fine. I just need to know, because clearly the regulation is not clear on that. This one is definitely not clear. It's bouncing back and forth between septic and sewer.
That piece on the PUD that you're referring to, onto the Board of Health in the common sewer system, the common septic system, was specifically placed in for Whitestone 1's initial planning. Whitestone Village, which is right off of 97. And then it was changed over. So, and the CSD kind of superseded the language. Again, you still, I see the differences of what you're talking about, but I don't think you can get a PUD up there either, because there's other requirements for a PUD, and they're not before me right now. But sewer's been the practice. Sewer was the written for the CSD. The shall is the shall, and the Board of Health is
I don't want to go too far into this, but what happens if you cannot connect the sewer because a sewer line? I can see if a sewer line is 50 feet, 500 feet away, then you must connect to a sewer line. But there is nothing out there So how
Well,
can you connect to nothing?
well, that's exactly what happened with Whitestone, is that they had to build it. They actually did. They had to build it all the way down the easement through the railroad tracks and then connect it over. And that tied the back to the sewer.
So what?
Three houses.
Shall we
You're not gonna
do?
do that.
Right, that's why I was saying on 3 house lots, the easiest thing to do is throw in 3 A&Rs with a septic system for each, and you'd be able to get the yield on a 12 acre parcel. If 2 acres or 3 acres is underwater, and half of the land has to go to the town anyway, it doesn't meet a yield requirement that makes any sense. Plus, it's gonna, the area out there is all single family dwellings, not a CSD or a PUD. It doesn't make any sense for the parcel the way it sits, and that's why a conceptual would be better. I'd even entertain a snapshot without a formal filing on it, just to have a better discussion, because this is kind of like throwing darts in the dark.
Okay, so that means he can probably do something if it's viable land.
Yeah, the parcel will speak for itself.
I'm not the developer here, I'm just the engineer. I'm not looking to develop the property myself. I've been asked just to look at the regulations for them. I was trying to get an understanding, particularly on the PUD, there's clearly a conflict between sewer and septic. And this site clearly can't be on sewer, it's totally uneconomical. Assuming I didn't have a problem with wetlands, assuming I didn't have a problem with yield and stuff, I'm asking is that, does the planning board agree that this conflict in this PUD regulation, and then septic would be allowed under a PUD? Before I start spending my client's money on trying to put plans together.
Yeah, that's what go ahead.
No, that's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to understand. I mean, if you're telling me, hey, absolutely, it definitely has to be on sewer, no matter what, I'll be back and tell me it's got to be on sewer, guys. In the story.
Well,
yeah, we don't have any PUDs that aren't, or CSDs that aren't on sewer. But I think there's a possibility you could do something else out there that wouldn't involve either one of those two, and still complete what you're trying to do for your client.
Well, I know that, but if the difference between 3 lots and an A&R, or I don't know, 6 or 7 lots in a PUD, that's a big difference. Now, I don't know if that to be the case.
Yeah, but the PUD of the CSD is a special permit, and until we see what the wetlands are. I mean, I'm all for suggesting things that work. That's what we do, but
I understand all that stuff.
Can't do it.
I understand I have to meet the wetlands, I have to meet the open space, I understand all that. I've done a lot of stuff, I'm doing this stuff for 40 years, I know what I'm doing. I'm looking at a regulation here that's just not clear to me. When I read it, I could be interpreted either way.
yeah.
The board's
I
gonna
think
say,
we would,
we'll see
from
this-
a board perspective, the CSD language is clear. I think the board, we can do a little research on our own and figure out when that change occurred and why it was changed, to see if that was a typo and that needs to get cleaned up. But we can do that internally.
I can see the CSD being interpreted that have to be on sewer because of site zone 30,000 square feet.
Yeah.
Move down to 20. I can see that. So I'm not discussing that any longer. The PUD is a different nature.
Well, you raised a good question, Paul. So let's take a look at that from the board perspective, and we can further address that, because we're not going to do that tonight. But I think that goes back to the change. But we'll take a look at that. That's pretty easy to track down and see if it was a typo or something.
Okay. I guess you answer my question the best you can, I guess.
Okay, guys, we got anything else up on?
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay.
Oh yeah, we got some meeting minutes or something.
Yeah.
Oh no, we didn't really hear.
No, we got a public hearing coming up. So. Okay. Continue 106 Street, 106 King Street, King Meadow Development, CO of Kenneth Conant, applicant, is requesting approval in a preliminary subdivision plan for 10 residential lots. Do I have a motion to open and continue the hearing?
No motion.
Motion, Bill. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Yep.
I would like to speak as the applicant.
Yes, go
Becca,
ahead.
do you want to do a preliminary on it and give us a little update?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Okay. I'd like to start off by saying that tonight we'd like to ask this board to close the preliminary process and to give us a vote on the waivers so we have some direction as to where to go. We've read through the draft, and I think most of the things in the draft are workable, but we'd like to reserve the right to disagree with certain parts of it. But again, we'd like to move forward and file our definitive plan. Bill Holt will speak now and maybe go through the draft letter here, and we can go through part of it or whatever. But most of the stuff, it seems to me, is pretty simple and pretty already decided for the most part. But I'll turn it over to Bill now. But I guess that's what we're here for tonight, is to close this preliminary hearing and to get the board's vote on the waivers.
Well,
What?
point of order for a second there. We just opened up the public hearing, and you're talking about a draft that hasn't been gone over yet or released yet. But do we have a final engineering review to make up? Do we have public comment, and then get into the board's review of this proposed draft and or changes, and then go into the back and forth, just for clarification on the record?
So this is a project that has been continued, so the public hearing has been continued. We never received any updated plans based upon what was submitted at the last meeting that was reviewed on June 30th. TEC did provide a peer review letter to the last updated plan that we did receive. And then as sent to you in your packets and dictated in the email that I sent to the board with the agenda, that if the board was interested in entertaining moving forward with a decision, I drafted the decision with conditions that would impact their ability to move forward with a definitive filing, such as plan updates and of the like that would need to be addressed prior to. And I did share those with the applicant prior to the meeting as well. So I'm not too sure what Kevin's referring to in regards to a draft letter. Is he referring to my decision, or did Bill make plan updates? And
Yes, the draft decision. The draft decision, yes.
Because I would recommend that we start to go back in an engineering review in the public hearing process. But I did draft something, but we also received the public comment letter that the board had requested from Mr. Kinch in terms of the concerns that he had as well. And then we received correspondence from Robin Wright, the abutter to the side, which I included in your packet as well. So I included both of those correspondence letters and a drafted decision if the board felt that they wanted to go through it this evening.
Well, I want to get to why wasn't there a submission of the changes to the plan? Because that's the normal process.
Well,
What do we
honestly,
miss?
we read the draft, and the draft basically incorporated some of the comments from TEC into the draft decision. So we figured that meant we could move forward with a definitive after the draft decision was discussed and voted on. We have really no issues with any of the items particularly. There was a couple of revisions they were looking for that we can do from between now and the definitive. It doesn't really affect the whole design.
Well, the road link does. That's a biggie.
Well, that's why we want to vote. We'd like to vote on the road length. That's one of the we want the waivers voted on. That's what we're
Is this the
looking to do
one
today.
where it's a certain amount of feet for the cul-de-sac there and you wanted to extend it?
Yep.
This is that
Yep.
property we're talking about?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you straight out right now, the answer is no. The law says it's only so many feet, and that's just so many feet it has to be. And if we go anything beyond that, then we're setting precedents for any other future contractors. So my answer is no. Sorry. Ain't gonna
I
happen.
think we gotta open, I think we gotta have a little bit of discussion.
Yeah, we gotta have it open for discussion. Absolutely. You can't.
Oh, I have no problem with discussion. I'm just letting you know my feelings.
Yeah, the 750 feet is probably a hard line on that, but I still think we're getting a little bit out of sequence here. So let's set the meeting up in here. We've got two folks from the public that want to hear the comments in, and so that's going to be on the record first. A proposed draft comes after, not before. And just out of curiosity, well, why didn't you submit the changes on the plans? I mean, because the draft was done much later than that.
There's not a lot of drafting changes to make, honestly. I mean,
All right. So let's start with the public then, and see what input they've got to get it on the record, and then the other stuff can go in its normal course. Who's representing the public here? Is Robin here and the other fellow?
Paul's here. Paul
Okay.
King. So I submitted a few questions. Number one is, when we first met with the board, we brought up the issue of the town clerk, Elizabeth Knuff, failing to declare a conflict of interest with the state. And I think
there is no conflict.
Excuse me, I'm not finished. I believe Mr. Sorensen asked Mr. Knuff to address that.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard anything back on that.
The planning board isn't the agency to which that does get addressed. It's with the state ethics commission that go forth, and the applicant, there is a form and stuff that they would file. And short of that, in the event that that is not resolved there, any resident of the Commonwealth can file a complaint letter with the Ethics Commission, and they will investigate that and come to a conclusion. But the board, it does not have the authority. I mean, we can ask the question, which we did, but we're not the authority to investigate or make a determination on that. So if there was something filed, the applicant can reveal that they resolved it, and there's a letter that goes to the clerk. Actually, it gets filed in its public record on that. So that's answer one, I suppose. And then if not, then you have your rights as a citizen in the Commonwealth to file a complaint with the Ethics Commission, and they will investigate that to its conclusion. So, but that's not the planning board, but just to let you know. So Kevin, did that form get addressed or anything? Kevin?
Kevin, you're muted. Can't hear you.
Rebecca knows all about it.
Did that get addressed?
I don't believe that the board should be addressing any of these matters. They are matters for the Attorney General and the state board. So I don't recommend that the board pursue any more conversation. If there is any a desire for the applicant, the butter to go to the state with any complaints thereof, then they should do so. And any discussion of a personal employee with the town will be a violation of the open meeting law. And I strongly caution the board from making any more discussions concerning such.
Okay, so is a public record document that to which the town clerk posts, because this is a required form. The question at hand is, was that received and is it available? It's a yes or no. Does anybody?
Wally, I don't think we should be diving in these waters.
Right.
It's not for us.
That's all for the ethics committee. That's not for us to even check into.
Okay, I'm not checking into anything. Just the form is public, and that was just all I was asking. Right. I don't want details, don't want names, don't want nothing, but there is a form that's filed. So
I don't even want to know about
we don't have answers, and then the citizen has to go forth with the State Ethics Commission and follow that protocol. So that answers.
What Rebecca said was pretty much set and forth. What she said was valid, and so therefore we should heave her what she says.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a state, that's not us. It's the State Ethics Commission.
I don't
So-
even want to know. But we're the planning board, so I'm not the state ethics. I don't even want to know. It's not up to us. We're not the we're not the Grove.
I agree. I agree. So I think the resident has his answer.
Okay.
For
I got it.
protocol.
Suggest
I
that
got
we
All
move
right.
on to item number.
Thank you very much.
So if we
All
move
right.
on from item number 4 down, Mr. Kinch,
Yep.
I think that would be advised, please.
Yep. Item number 4, consideration, is there any, in consideration of any waiver of any ordinance for the proposed development, will the board consider the cost of a proposed home is at a minimum $720,000, while the housing needs of Groveland require more housing built in the range of $350,000?
That's part of the bylaw. I think when they do a
I'm
subdivision.
not done. Excuse me, I'm not done yet, please. How does waiving an ordinance benefit the town in this specific manner?
We can't waive that ordinance.
Right.
It's part
That's
of
in the affordable housing bylaw. It doesn't get waived.
Then we don't set the price.
Right. It's based on a conglomerate of different towns of housing. It's actually there's a state number where the town of Groveland doesn't determine it.
Okay,
And
so
it's more in line with what you're forecasting here in your
Right.
item 4.
What does that mean?
So you're saying that you don't have anything to do with this. It's off of your,
So essentially, the
Right.
board-
We don't put a price.
requirement. However, under section 10.1.5.2, projects that produce less than 9 units may make a payment in lieu of constructing the house, which will then be put into a fund used to create affordable housing in town. If the developer had the 10 lots, then he would need to produce the affordable unit, meaning he'd have to construct it. But because he's now proposing to produce 9 lots, he has the option to pay in lieu of creating that affordable housing unit. So he cannot be waived from the requirement at all. He either needs to construct a unit or he needs to pay in. But the fact that he's reduced his units to 9 means that he has that option. Whereas if he had 10, he would have to produce the unit. So it is no waiver. It is actually in the regulations.
okay.
Right. And typically what developers have done, because we've been doing this for a while, is that they do, there's a total number figured out for the subdivision, and it gets divided up by the amount of lots, and as each lot goes through a phase, the fee is paid to the town, to the affordable housing. And they've been able to do some pretty good things with that so far. There's a couple of units they've built so far.
All right, got it. In consideration of any waiver to extend the total length of roadway in the proposed development, will the board please estimate the yearly cost to the town of maintaining the new roadway and drainage infrastructure using town resources for the maximum allowable road length of 750 feet? And it sounds like you're not really looking to extend that 750-foot road length.
Yeah, the 750 road length was put in specifically, and I wrote it, and it was put in to stop the never-ending subdivision tagged on to subdivision tagged on to subdivision. And believe me, I live on one now. And what happens is that the roads were not initially designed up as feeder streets, and there were many other issues that go through. And part of it is public safety. And if the power lines, for instance, right where I live, come down and block off some of these streets, there's no way in right away. So that's why the 750 was put in as a hard number. And for those that, Stonebridge was an example of where it wasn't given a waiver, but they put in a full-blown emergency access road to another public way to meet that. So that wasn't waived then either. So that's what that 750 is for. It's not for water, it's not for sewer, it's for public safety mostly. And we determined at the time that that was the maximum one way in and out that was reasonable for public safety, road construction, etc. And that's what that's for. And it has never been waived
Okay.
in the town.
It has been waived, Rolly. It's been waived for Billis Way. Billis Way, you waived it. Don't say
Billis
it's never
Way?
been waived. It's been waived. It was
Billis
waived
Way is
for
where?
Billis Way. You're building the road right now. I designed the damn thing. I know it was waived. Don't tell me it wasn't waived. It's on file. Jesus Christ, Wally.
We're
Don't
not
make
waiving it.
revision history. Yeah.
Not revision history. We're not waiving it. So
You waived it
there you
then,
go.
and you set a
So
precedent.
what's the other questions on this? What else we got?
Okay. The last meeting, the applicants committed to giving trails to the town in exchange for a waiver in the length of the roadway. I guess.
It's off the table. It's off the table.
It's off the table? Okay.
Yep.
Table. Next question is, we're asking the board to enforce the export ban required by building in Zone 3 of the Aquifer Protection District. The proposed development appears to alter the entire site, approximately 9 acres, and would be significantly higher than the minimum threshold of 15%. Will the board require the applicant to submit verified measurements for the consideration of any waiver of these requirements? Will these measurements be made available to the public?
Everything's available to the public because it's all public record. Everything is that we do on the, let's see, Zone 3 aquifers, water protection. I'm trying to follow your question here. If it's Zone 2, it's a special permit on this. Waiver to requirements.
According to peer review.
TEC review, and I believe that the TEC would review anything. I'm just trying to follow your question. Pete, have you looked at this from a 15% perspective?
He did look at the actual letter. In the letter you'll see, he did say that it would probably require a special permit, but at the last meeting, he came forward with calculations that stated that the area would not exceed what is required under the bylaw. However, that being said, both Pete and I had a conversation, and we disagree with the calculations that he put forward, and believe that he would in fact have to file a special permit, but yet TEC would look at that closely.
That's what I thought. All right, so that answers both of those questions, sir. Public documents and a special permit, so it'll be further reviewed.
Okay, he's ready for the next one.
Okay. We feel that the existing design of the stormwater management infrastructure is undersized, and as an abutter receiving the water downstream, we feel larger containment designs are necessary. Will the board please direct the applicants to provide a design, an alternate design that will accommodate more wastewater?
I believe a lot of that comes in a definitive filing.
And then also, he weighed in on the letter stating that they did not believe that the stormwater as presented was adequate, so they asked for additional information in the definitive filing as well.
Yeah, so that handles both of those. So yes and yes to your to that one.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. Next question. Will the board please verify the applicant's measurements concerning the contiguous building area?
Yeah, that'll be reviewed too in the filing.
Okay, very good. And the developer submitted a new plan, but did not submit an updated erosion and sedimentation control plan. Is this still the situation?
We did find that in the plan, brought to our attention that one of the plan sheets was not updated accordingly. So one of the things that we made in the recommendations for, and I guess to make it a formality with the conditions, was that they make sure that they update that plan in their definitive filing so that it can be reviewed and approved accordingly.
Okay, answers that one.
Right. All right, that's it.
All right. And is there any other abutter that has forth there? Or?
So I did get an email from Robin, right, in terms of the meeting. She is unable to mute herself. I guess she's recording the meeting, and therefore asked that I just make sure that the board were aware of her comments, and those were forwarded to you in your packet. Specifically, she has stated that the land that will be designated, well, I guess there's no trail, so we'll skip that one, but what are you doing, what are you going to do to prevent people from your subdivision from trespassing onto my property? There needs to be a solid permanent boundary such as a stockade or chain link fence to prevent people from coming onto my property, 106 property. This is already taking place. The right of way does not go all the way to the tree line. My land is between the end of the easement and the stone wall that serves as a boundary line between the properties. And she also sent me photos that I can share with you if you'd like to take a look at that more closely.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And then there's the right-of-way passage for the other address as well, the right to pass and repass for the other farm. And I'm not sure where those properties merge on that, to be honest.
This is Denise Kinch speaking on behalf of Robin.
Yeah.
Sorry. She asked me to just say that this is going to be handled and resolved in another venue, so not to worry about it at this point.
But can you be a little more specific? Is that like conservation, or is that?
Well, no, she just doesn't want it to be discussed anymore tonight. She'll handle it.
Oh, all right. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Thank
We respect your wishes.
Thank you.
All right. So that answers that stuff. Okay. So does that bring us up to date now as far as the point of order goes? Is everybody, are we all up to date now so that we can go forward with what we're going to do with this?
Looks that way.
Okay.
Do you have any-
Just look at, yeah. Okay. On that. So then we go into this, this possibility of the draft.
Do you have anything
That we threw in that. So, Rebecca, can you brief us on, are we missing anything on this?
No, so like I said, I wasn't sure whether or not the planning board wanted to move forward with a rendering a decision in terms of a preliminary plan. A lot of times these things aren't actually fully documented, and my school of thought is to always make sure that we have a documentation that states what the planning board would like to see moving forward. So I drafted something similar to what we would do for a regular decision that had conditions, and it incorporated all of TEC's peer review comments, and that it entailed some of the things that we just discussed, like updating the erosion control plan, updating the stormwater stuff, making sure that they file for a stormwater management and land disturbance permit, make sure they address the scenic bylaw, because they are listed on the scenic bylaw road, so therefore any tree removal would need to go through a process. So I can pull up the conditions as I drafted them. There still seems to be some back and forth in terms of the board members concerning the waiver for roadway length. So that's the only outstanding item that would need to be updated before, if the board wanted to move forward. It's just general that the applicant should consider, should do A, B, and C kind of thing, just to make sure that all the conversations that we've had since the beginning of the spring is documented appropriately, and that the applicant understands what it is that the board's looking to see in that definitive filing, and that they would be willing to discuss further in more technical detail.
Yeah, the preliminary, you're absolutely correct. The preliminary approval up or down is really no bearing, although it does give a weight to the board's feelings and direction on things. But the definitive is the actual generator for possibilities. So if the only thing that's outstanding, the rest is all general comments, introduction, reviews. We've answered a lot of questions. The definitive is a much more detailed plan, which we'll get into the erosion control, the special permit, et cetera, et cetera. So then we should fly a motion on this on the road length. And I think we beat it up on discussion. So I'd like to fly a motion that we hold to the 750 road length.
Well, hold on, Wally. I have some questions for the developers.
Okay.
So where do they stand with the water department?
We have a meeting with the water department tomorrow. We've basically agreed to terms. We don't have anything in writing yet, but it's also based on our getting our 9 lots and our 700 plus feet of roadway. getting the waiver for the roadway. Because we're not putting out 250,000 for a water main, not being able to get it back.
So you put a 12-inch main in if you get the. So
yes,
this goes back to Wally. This goes back to what we discussed.
For enough for the town.
It's not. I don't.
And I'm with you, Bob, on that. You know what?
Yep.
You're gonna have to state it over because you guys walked on each other and I didn't hear it. I don't know if anybody else did. So what was the water and sewers position?
They've come to some sort of.
It looks like
it's not in writing yet, but to be determined if we give them the waiver on the length of the road also. And it is a betterment for the town.
Wait a minute, what is to be determined? The 750 road length makes no bearing on water or sewer. None.
For them it does because of the cost.
Wait a minute, for who? Who's them?
the developer.
Okay, so that it's a price inset that makes no bearing. It's not a benefit to the town per se for 2 additional houses. To go through that. So if they got if they could put wells in, they put wells in. If they don't, they don't. But we're talking 2 different things. I'm all in favor for helping out with water, but road length isn't one of them. And I don't think the Water and Sewer Board would step forward and say, okay, we're going to give you the water if you give us 900 feet of roadway. I don't think they would do that. So I missed a piece of that conversation. And if Kevin could explain that again, just so I got it clear, what they actually said.
Who said?
The Water and Sewer Board said what, or what agreement do you have?
We have no agreement with them yet. I said we have no agreement with them yet. We have worked with them. We have verbally come to some terms. We are meeting with them tomorrow, and that's all I know.
All right, so we don't have a decision yet from Water and Sewer then. So, okay, so that we'll have to wait for that one. So then we're back to, what's the other questions, guys, so we can motion on the road line?
I just don't understand how it benefits the town to have water and sewer to this little development. I don't get that.
It's water, not water and sewer.
So Jim, I don't, if you go up King Street, you take a look, it's all marked out. So I think there's going to be, how many extra homes are going to get the benefit of this upgraded on the water pipe to 12-inch?
Mike can probably answer that. I think it's 12 or 15 houses. I'm not sure.
I was told there was over about just about a dozen homes that would be additionally serviced by the sewer that are currently not.
Not to mention the public safety issue that now they have better fire protection on King Street as well.
Absolutely.
There's always been a flow issue on that street, Jim.
Okay.
Just so you know, there's always been a restricted flow up King Street on that part.
And I don't see compromise and give the water and sewer and don't exceed the 750 of the roadway.
So I think you need an extra lot just to be able to support that. It's $250,000, $300,000 bucks. You know what I mean? On top of what the road costs, on top of what construction costs, and you gotta, I'm just, if it betters the town, I don't have a problem with it. And if Billis Way is actually more than 750 feet, I think it's, I don't see the problem.
Me either.
And again, I'm a little new to all this, so I'm trying to get a better understanding of all this. But but aren't we also, because it's now going to be that, is not the town's responsibility to plow it, and isn't that no more a cost for the town as well?
What if there's no snow like last year?
So we need to go through the process of roadway acceptance in order to accept the roadway. So essentially what would happen is that the applicant would have to put forward documents and have to give us all of the information. And the thing about roadway acceptance that's important to note is that any additional mileage that we accept in roads actually goes to the benefit of the town in terms of funds from the state through our Chapter 90 funding. So any road that we add actually comes back for monies to help maintain that road. If it's a private roadway and something were to happen, the town can't spend town monies fixing private roadways unless there's extreme obviously. So it's one of those things where it's a catch-22 where accepting roads isn't necessarily a bad thing. We just want to make sure that the roads that we do accept are actually built appropriately and will allow us to maintain them with as little resources as necessary. So the issue is not necessarily the roads as much as they are the stormwater management of the sites. The stormwater management of the sites gets really interesting because then you have detention that nature that make it a little bit more difficult. So I wouldn't worry too much in terms of the maintenance of the actual roadway when we're getting additional funds for that roadway in terms of acceptance.
And I think that on the other thing is that not only is there going to be an expense, you know, for water, and I understand that, but now we're shortening up. If we stick to the 750 road length, we're shortening up the road almost a couple hundred feet, I think. And that's at $400 a foot to build. So the savings there. Plus the water doesn't have to go into there. And that regulation was in place, and the subdivision should have been designed from the get-go, not to exceed the reg, but to meet the reg. And I do agree that the water pressure is something that is going to improve out there, the fire protection, but some of that you would have to do anyway. But there are maybe other waivers other than the road length that if there's a cost and the town can back it and say what they're looking for, and we don't have anything in writing from them yet, so it's hard to make a determination on that. But you are going to save money on the roadway by not building it, and you're also going to save money on the piping. So I think it's a break-even analysis, at least at first look, on not to exceed the road length. And again, it's a public safety issue on that as well. And Billis might have other ways out of it because it's got a cemetery roads. But
you can't just go up that.
That's the way it goes through on that. And I'm talking about this subdivision at the moment. So I would still stick to the 750. And it should, if you didn't do planning to put water in there, it's not the board's responsibility to help you make more money to stick in a 12-inch pipe that you should have planned in the first place, particularly where there were other issues like the 61A property that had to be addressed as well. So I'm going to stick hard with the 750.
But that's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the water main. We're asking for a 75-foot waiver on the road. We're not asking for a 100-foot waiver.
What's the total length of the road from beginning to the very end of the cul-de-sac? Isn't it close to 900 feet?
I don't believe it is. I think it was an 82-foot easement, an 82-foot waiver we were asking for.
I don't think so. I think it was more than that because you stopped at the cul-de-sac and didn't include it in the total measurement. And that's what that is. It's from tip to tip. If anybody's got that number, that'd be good. But the water main, you know, there's other waivers that the board can help out with for benefits of the town. But remember, you're building less roadway, you're putting in less pipes, so you're saving that money too. So
the town should have water. The town has water up there.
Town does have
water up there already.
Yeah. So it doesn't make sense on that. So, and we don't have an agreement to look at. So
I think you're home to the 75.4, Wally. I'm looking at the preliminary subdivision plan for King Meadow Farm right now.
Now where does that stop?
He's got the road in blue. The whole cul-de-sac and everything is in blue. So I'm looking at that. It says road length 825.
So even if it was 74, how wide is the cul-de-sac? 50 feet, another 25 feet.
It's 125 feet in diameter, typically. Pete, do you have those numbers?
No, 100.
Just back those up. Pete?
Yeah, I'm looking at the plan right now. I can, so the 825-foot measurement is to the center of the cul-de-sac.
That's what I thought, yeah.
And
so what's the total? Give me tip tip to tip, because that's what that includes. Because the 70 included.
I think you're wrong.
Included the cul-de-sac right to the very end.
Yeah, so to the end of the cul-de-sac is 55 feet from the center.
Okay, so it's 110. So what's, and added on, so give me a total number, isn't it 9?
825 plus 55.
Close to 9.
880.
All right, so we got 880, so we're over 130 feet or so. So I don't see the benefit on that going through.
30.
So I don't know, we'd have to see what the water and sewer says, but there's other stuff that can get you that. Maybe you can come together with some numbers and we'll take a look at them. And if it's your honest mission to put the water in with a 12-inch main, and that's why you need to put it in, then let's see the numbers. And maybe the town will help you out with that.
And also, what about the trails? For the road?
The surplus land is off the table for now.
Translate that. Does that mean it's going to become a potential subdivision? And if
Might
so,
be a
you got
40B, I don't know.
What's that?
Yeah, it might be a 40B or something, I don't know.
Well, then you got to submit that plan because now that roadway is going to go. So I'm going to make a motion.
No, I don't have to submit anything. I submitted a plan for a 9-lot subdivision.
But you have attached land that could be built upon. And if you're saying a 40B, then you just walked into something different. I'm making a motion that we deny the preliminary based on evidence submitted this evening.
I'm not doing anything with the surplus land right now. I'm keeping it.
Is there potential for build out? You just said a 40B.
I have no idea, Wally. I have no idea.
Okay. Well, because if there is, you have to supply that. No, that's just the way the reg goes. If you have land and you're going to do a potential build out, we stress the road as a feeder street.
I'm not doing anything with it. I just told you.
All right.
I'm not doing anything with it.
So you'll retract the 40B statement, the PUD round.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so we're back to just the road.
I said it sarcastically. Wally, I said it sarcastically.
All right. Noted. So we just have the original motion on the road length, and the board can entertain this later if you want, until we get some numbers and have a discussion with water and sewer. I know I missed that one, but maybe there's other things that can save the developer some money, but the town can get what it wants and not violate a regulation. Maybe there's other things to do, and it's worth looking into. But I would like to hear from water and sewer first, and maybe they've got some creative ideas for us.
Water and sewer has got nothing to do with it. I could put wells in if I wanted to.
That's true. That's true. You can.
So what does water and sewer got to do with it then?
Well, because you mentioned it for the reason for the to waive the road.
Because I'm trying to do what's right, and I'm trying to put town water in. But if I can't get 9 lots and I don't get a waiver on the road, I'm not interested in putting a water main in.
Okay. So that answers that. So back to the original motion. We need a second to not waive the road length. At least not at this time on the preliminary.
I'll second.
Okay. Call for a vote.
I'm just trying to figure out if this whole conversation has to do with 9 lots or the water, which is the real reason we're all talking about this. And that's what I'm trying to figure out. Because you said to me, you just said earlier, if I don't have the 9th lot, then therefore I won't have water, correct? So what's the bottom line? What are we trying to do here? Are we trying to get a 9th lot? Or are we trying to get water? Which is that you as a developer are trying to accomplish throughout all this?
I'm trying to do both. I'm trying to put the water main in. I'm trying to cover my costs with the 9th lot. Therefore, I'm asking for a waiver on the length of the road. It's pretty simple.
But it wasn't simple until you just explained that. It's the 9th lot that you need to cover the cost in order to do the infrastructure of the water. That's what you're saying to me.
Correct. Yes.
But that was never said earlier. All you were talking about earlier is, extension, and what's best for the town, water, and blah, blah, blah. Now we know where the rubber meets the road. So the bottom line is, gentlemen, is do we allow him to put a 9th lot so he could pay for the water to be installed into the town? That's the bottom line, if not mistaken.
Yeah, it's either that or
That's correct.
It was a ramrod to maximize, and then the excuse of the water was thrown on, and I'm not really sure, and that's not for me to figure out, but I do know what it states going forward, and we don't have to vote on this, but I would like to see what would a 750 single page, not a million things of detail, look like, and could you redesign that road a little bit and maybe get your lots in without violating the road length? I don't know the answer to that. You guys can probably putt around with that.
I'm sure they probably already have.
I'm sure they do. And I'll say honestly, it's very difficult with these Zoom meetings to get a really good look at a solid plan, through these little screens, and we keep bringing them up, and it takes a lot longer. It does. So it's no one's fault that we could normally solve things in a very short period of time and see clearer what's before us, because we could actually sketch on things too. And we can't do that in these Zoom meetings. And it's just one of the things that we're dealing with as a board. So that seems to be the only thing here. We do have a motion in a second. We can move the motion. We can table a motion to wait for the information to come back in from the Water Sewer Board and have a discussion with them. There's multiple ways to solve this, since that seems to be the only abnormal obstacle at the moment. The rest
I make a motion to table the waiver right now.
I second it.
All right.
See what the water would do, and let's move on with the rest of the.
Okay, I'm amenable to that, and we can get the water and sewer in and just have a good normal conversation and see what we can work out. What's that?
Yeah. No, I know, Kevin. It's not sewer. It's just water. So we got a motion and we got a second. Table it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and it's the Water Sewer Board, Kevin, not that you're bringing sewer into the road. So, okay, and then the rest of the approve the draft with the exception of the road length not to be decided.
Yes, I would make a motion to approve the draft and without the roadway being decided.
So motion.
Second it?
Second.
Whether
What's up, Kev? Go ahead. Speak, Kev.
whether I do water or wells, what does that have to do with finishing up the preliminary and voting on the waivers?
Because it's a vote on the waiver.
Well,
We don't have enough information.
Then we're saying to you, go ahead, do the 9th plot. Go right ahead with your intentions. That's what you're asking us to do. And I don't feel comfortable tonight making that decision. I have to do a little more research and thinking about that before.
Yeah, there's not enough information for the board to make a solid decision on an important waiver. So that's why everything else with the motion we're about to vote on we'll go for the draft. And in the meantime, if you want to help the board out, throw us a single page with not a lot of detail on what 750 looks like. I mean, an actual 750 roadway. Maybe there's other things you can do that they can move things around. Maybe you still get the line. I don't know.
The decision that I drafted with the findings, they just point out matters of the actual plan. So they don't necessarily state that you're approving a waiver one way or the other. Like you can see in the 4, it just says, it is noted that the applicant is asking for a waiver from sections and proposes 825 instead of the 750. None of these findings actually state that the board is waiving or allowing a waiver. They just note that they are requesting it. So they could be discussed at a later date as well. Just so.
So Rebecca, if I can understand you, this is only a preliminary. This is a decision that the board is going to make tonight.
I understand. I was looking to move forward, to close the preliminary hearing and move to definitive. And I was looking for some direction, whether I'm drawing a map of 750 with 8 lots, or I'm drawing a plan of 8 something with 9 lots. That is the question. And I don't know what more information you need. The deal I'm trying to make with the water department is between us and the water department. So whether I make a deal with the water department or whether I put wells in, what's the difference?
It makes a difference because we don't have enough information, Kevin. You asked us to make a vote on a waiver.
Information on what? What more information do you need?
Okay.
Is what I don't understand.
Okay. Well, we got a motion and a second on this draft. Okay. And we got to make a vote on that. So I think you get everything you want in there. We're not going to, the board is.
Brad, did you want to speak on something? I think you started to speak and you got interrupted.
Me?
Yeah, I thought you started to speak, you got interrupted.
I think what we're putting forward, whether or not we lengthen the road or not, still puts them into the, puts them into the definitive.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't matter what the vote is tonight, Kevin.
All right. Okay.
So then the board is voting to approve the drafted decision as shown on the screen, and then to close the public hearing for the preliminary, and then to vote to approve the decision and allow them to move forward with a definitive filing.
With no votes on any waivers.
Yes, the decision would be the one that would do that. There's no anything specified about the waivers other than noting that they had requested them.
Well, you keep telling me you need more information. I'm looking for more information to know what I'm doing. Where am I going?
Kevin, I think Jim is new to the board. Well, so am I, but I have a little more experience. But I will say, you've asked for the waiver on the road for the 800 plus feet to do the water improvement. And you just turned around and said, I can do wells whether or not I get the water improvement or not. So you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. I mean, so let us digest the betterment of the town.
Okay.
And how it pays for it. You know, but
that's
you
exactly right.
You be definitive.
I got you.
Okay, we're moving the motion.
Yep. Move the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, sorry, just to clarify, so are we voting to close the public hearing and then voting to approve the draft
Yes.
Yes.
in the same motion?
No, two separate motions. We actually approved the draft in the meeting.
We just proved it. We just proved the draft. Now we'll vote to close the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Sorry about that.
Nope, that's fine.
No motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
What? I'm sorry. Wait a sec. Let's put a motion up. Let's put a motion up to close the public
Close
hearing.
public hearing. Yeah. So motion of close public hearing.
Second.
It? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. So here we go.
Okay. Thank you. And what do we got next? The minutes?
Hold on. Yes. Minutes. to approve the June 30th, 2020 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
No motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. Town planner update.
I'll be brief. I think all of you have fulfilled all of your open meeting law requirements. I just received Wally's this morning, excuse me. So I just need clarification if you've also done the ethics test, so that will need to be submitted to the clerk. Otherwise, that we're all up to date. All the other members have submitted their paperwork. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Motion to close the hearing? Close the meeting?
I'm sorry. I have one more thing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Go for it. Nope, go for it.
So I forgot to tell you, so our next meeting is going to be scheduled for September 15th, as we discussed earlier. So the issue is, do we want to meet in person or do we want to meet virtual via Zoom? So if we do, in fact, meet in person, we are only allowed to have 10 people in a room. So if you take that into consideration, there's 4 board members, myself, this person from cable TV, that's 6 right there. So then we can have applicants wait in the hallway, and then we can bring them in and make sure we don't exceed the 10. And then what we'll do is that the public is still not invited to attend, but we can put on this type of setting for the public to weigh in. So if they have any comments or whatnot, they can participate through Zoom, and it's all live on cable access TV. So they'll be able to see things as they're going along. So we can do that for our September 15th meeting because again, we're still not open to the public and we can only have 10 people in a room, or we can continue to do virtual meetings. I know Brad has expressed interest in having plans, large set plans, so he's dropped by a couple of times to pick up plans. So if that's something that the board would like to, where they can just pick up the larger size plans so they can see it in person and bring them home during these meetings, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, if we're in person, then you'll be able to view them there. So I just wanted to know whether or not the board wanted to do that so I could inform the applicants that are going to be attending the meeting on the 15th.
I'd say I'd love to come in.
I'd love to come
if the
in.
numbers stay down. If the numbers stay down.
Yes.
How does that sound?
Yeah, if the numbers stay down. If we get a quick spike, then we'd have to, I would stay home.
Myself too.
Yeah. But
I would never deny myself to see all these beautiful faces.
So does that mean the board would like to try to do the in-person one, or do you want to wait the first meeting of September and see where we go at the last meeting in September?
We'd like to try it as long as the numbers allow.
Yeah, let's try it.
All right, so we will try our first in-person meeting on September 15th. I'll send you all of the details, and then I'll let the applicant know so that he tries to bring limited people when he shows up.
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
So motion to adjourn
And motion to adjourn.
at 10:11.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, guys. Have a good night.
Thank
Good
you.
night. Thank you.